Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Council Chambers on this beautiful January 26th evening, or afternoon still. It's great to see that our residential snow clearing has been completed, the subdivisions, and now our operations staff are now heading to the back alley, so definitely kudos to our public works staff. Definitely appreciate the work and the extra hours that they put in over the last about 30 days to get everything all done and completed before many of our regional municipalities. However, I do have one issue with what occurred over the last month. According to folklore, the Mayor's Road was supposed to be done first each and every time, but it was not done this time. It was the very, very last. So if the folklore is not true, I need people to change that or actually make it true, please, so that I can get my road done all the time. Next year. Thank you. With all that, kidding aside, yes, our staff did do an excellent job. We do have a rotational schedule for all residential street clearing, where every third of the schedule gets turned around, so everybody has a chance to be first, everybody has to be in the middle of the list, and everybody has a chance to be at the last. And that's where I ended up this year, but that's just how it goes. But again, on behalf of myself, our council, and the residents, thank the staff for doing an exceptional job in the amount of snow in the short period of time that we had. Thank you. So with that, there's an agenda before you. Administration, anything to add?
Nothing, Your Worship.
Okay. Deputy Mayor for the motion, please.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. The Town Council adopt the January 26, 2026 regular council meeting agenda as presented.
Thank you. I'll call the question. All in favor? Okay. That is carried. Moving on to number 3 of our agenda is public input session. This is the time that we allow residents, stakeholders, anybody else to have an interest in what's happening in Stony Plain can present to the Council Plain that's on something that's not on the current agenda. Administration, has anybody registered to speak?
Through Your Worship, no one has registered.
Thank you. Is anybody in the gallery like to speak to Council on anything that's not on the current agenda? Seeing none, moving on to presentations and delegations. And we have nothing scheduled tonight, so moving on to number 5 of our agenda is the statutory public hearing. And today we're dealing with Westera Stage 20 Land Use Bylaw Amendment. All right. So this is a public hearing, so we have to have one so that we're in tune with the Municipal Government Act. So when we hold it, it gives the opportunity for residents, the applicants, and members of council to ask questions for clear understanding and have that conversation. So it will go by me declaring the public hearing to order. We'll get a presentation from administration, and then council gets to ask questions for clear understanding. Then we also get a presentation for the applicant. Council gets the opportunity to ask for questions for clear understanding. Then in terms of all those in favor of the proposal, all those that are against the proposal, and then all those that have a general comment against the proposal. And at every single time, members of council have the opportunity to ask questions for clarity and understanding. When that is completed, the applicant may summarize if they like. If not, that is okay. And then that will close our public hearing. And from there, then we'll deal with the business item a little bit later on to approve it under the bylaws. Okay, that is the process. So with that, I declare that we'll hold bylaw 2731/LUO/25, Westera Stage 20, Land Use Bylaw Amendment to order. Go ahead, administration.
Good evening, Your Worship and all of Council. Tonight we're here for the public hearing for bylaw 2731/LUO/25 for Westera Stage 20. And this is a land use bylaw amendment regarding zero lot line development. So as we typically start with the land use planning framework in Stony Plain, this one here is where we typically are, is down at the land development, where we talk about things such as boundaries, servicing, and ultimately defining what is allowed where. Before you is the aerial context. So this is generally showing the west side of Westera. Westera Drive just comes in off of Highway 779 or 48th Avenue, just across from Genesis on the Lakes. Overall, this area here has been given the name West Terra Grove in terms of the loop road. So there's kind of two parts here. The east side of West Terra Grove is stage 19. The area on the rest here we're considering stage 20. Both have a subdivision in place right now. And ultimately, we're talking about the area that's the red crosshatch kind of being indicated with the red laser pointer on the screen here. In terms of higher level plans, there is a neighborhood plan in place, the West Terra area structure plan. This shows the area for low density. The area is circled here in red. Not too much more there. Getting into a little more detail, so again, this shows more specifically, so the land use bylaw currently has the entire area on both sides of West Terra Grove as the the R5 small lot mixed form residential district, allowing singles, semis, and row housing. So all those are able to be done right now under the current zoning. The bylaw in front of us is looking at the black crosshatched area and is looking to apply those areas to our zero lot line developments in the land use bylaw. So more specifically, just talking about the zero lot line areas already, the areas that are in a lighter crosshatch, starting with areas along West Terra Wind. This is stage 17, which was approved several years ago. More recently, we had areas down in 18. This area is just subdivided at the end of 2025. And then we have several areas already along West Terra Grove that have been allowed for zero lot line development. And we're specifically, again, talking about those two bold parcels here to be added to the zero lot line development area. As part of this, for the public hearing, we have posted this information and done advertisement on the town website. A sign has been posted on the site, and we have brought this to the Planning Advisory Committee for comments. Just to quickly segue to this, so as you can see here, here's the sign that was placed on the property approximately 23 days before today. So it does meet the requirements under both the land use bylaw and the public advertisement bylaw. Just going back to the Planning Advisory Committee, they did make a motion, as you can see in their minutes, it's attached, I believe, today, that said that they do support this. Just note that they also did make a motion to, basically the motion was to not allow any additional zero lot line development in Stony Plain. Just wanted to highlight that there as an awareness piece. Beyond that, we're basically here for the public hearing, and then council has the opportunity to look at giving the bylaw second and third reading and ultimately making a decision on this bylaw. Thank you, and if you have any questions or comments, administration's here. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Administration, for the presentation. I think that was part of the presentation that was done at first reading as well. So members of council, any questions for clearing and understanding on that presentation? Councilor Plechko, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship, through to administration. I'm just curious on the comment that the Planning Advisory Committee made as to no more zero lot lines in the community. Can you elaborate as to why that was put within a motion? It's rather interesting that they would consider a motion of that stature.
Okay, go ahead.
Through your worship to Councillor Plechko. At a very high level, there was a lot of discussion. I know zero lot lines have come through several bylaws over the years. The PAC has had the opportunity to comment on, I believe, all of those bylaws at this point. And I think it was just a general, I'll say there's three things that were generally concerned by the PAC. One was fire separation between buildings under the fire code and the building code. The second one was some of the concerns or perceived concerns regarding the easements that are part of zero lot line developments. And then the third one I would say is just the general concern or consensus around zero lot lines that they do cause more challenges for the communities they're in. I will note that we do have a development activities report coming to report on last year, which is the first year that we had a full community or a full subdivision of zero lot lines to report on in terms of those concerns. And then broadly just leave it at that, just noting that there was some discussion that took place. The members did believe that it was something that they wanted to make a motion directly to council to let them know their thoughts on the matter, given their experience with that over the last several years. And those were some of the main concerns that they brought up during their discussion.
If I could,
Thank you. Go ahead.
you made mention of a report coming. Were they privy to that report prior to?
Go ahead.
Through your worship to Councillor Poetchko, the report hasn't been released yet, so no. Again, this report comes from the request from council to report on zero lot line neighborhoods and what sort of concerns or compliances and complaints we might have around those areas. It is something that we did start reporting on, I believe, last year in the development activities report, and again, we'll have more information next week at the GNP.
Thank you, appreciate that.
Okay, thank you. That's next week in GMP. Councilor Meyer? Deputy Mayor, go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. And I just a question, the lots just to the, I guess that'd be west of the, yeah, those ones there, are those, in another document, not these ones, I had seen they were labeled as for future consideration. I'm just curious, is that their status now?
Through your worship to the Deputy Mayor, there is a subdivision plan that has been approved, conditionally approved, for that area. So right now, that area is allocated for semi-detached product across the street. So the block here that I'm highlighting with the pointer, as per the subdivision plan that's been approved right now.
And just further, and that's that R5, right?
Through your worship to the Deputy Mayor, yes, that is the R5. Again, if I go back to this one here, the entire area is currently zoned as R5.
Okay, so just for my sake, in theory, those, not the ones that we're talking about tonight, the ones across the street, in theory, those could as well be considered for zero lot line?
Through your worship to the Deputy Mayor, that is correct. Any of these areas could be considered if requested by an applicant, as we're doing tonight for these areas. R2, R4, and R5 areas are eligible for zero lot line development if council adds them to the map for zero lot line development.
Okay, and there's nothing that, that would prevent those ones by our regulations from being considered as well? They're just not being considered at this moment?
Correct. They're not being considered at this moment.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Any other questions for clear understanding? Okay. Councilor Lowry, go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. Question through you to administration. You referenced the concerns that were raised by the Planning Advisory Committee in regards to zero lot lines. You mentioned fire separation. Just curious on that one, because to my understanding, the zero lot line homes being detached homes with that easement that they have in the lot, they have fire separation essentially on the side of the building. And the originally proposed product, or what is eligible in an R5, would also have the same type of fire separation being attached units?
Okay, go ahead.
Through your worship to Councillor Lowry, again, I don't remember all the details that were discussed. At a very high level, I'll just note that zero lot line product like this typically are 1.5 meters apart, whereas if it is anything else, it would generally be 2.4, given that there's a 1.2 side yard on both sides. Again, that reduction from the 2.4 to the 1.5 was the perceived concern that was raised during that discussion.
Thank you. And again, for clarity though, the original proposal of row housing units provides zero separation on either side and also has its own considerations for fire separation.
Your worship to Councillor Lowry, that is true. The current plan for that block there that is black on the screen is planned for row housing right now. So again, there would be more separation between the row housing, between ends of row housing, if you would, but ultimately between it, row housing does act as kind of a double zero lot line, if you would.
Thank you. And then just again on the clarity, with the 1.5 meter separation on the exposed sides, so the sides of the buildings, there is a fire separation or a fire retardant layer or what have you that is required to be placed on the side of those homes?
Through your worship to Councilor Laurie, unfortunately, I'm not a building safety code officer, so I can't fully speak in terms of what needs to be there. But I do know that the building safety code does require certain things in place on the siding based upon the separation distance. And with the separation distance being the 1.2 or greater, it requires a similar or a different, depending on, again, the circumstances of those, so.
Excellent. Thank you for clarifying that's addressed in the building code.
Okay, thank you. Any more questions for clear understanding? Okay, just to be clear, because I think there was a couple questions around the recommendations from the Planning Advisory Committee. So reading the minutes is that they do support this change to a zero lot line. They just do not support other future changes.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you for that clarity. And I think that opens the opportunity for maybe members of council to have that conversation with members of the Planning Advisory Committee when we get together, or when that bylaw comes out for a revisit. So in terms of the reason what the Planning Advisory Committee is there is to provide insight and suggestions to council. So that is a conversation piece that sounds like members of council are interested in having. Any more questions for clear understanding before we move on? Okay. Seeing none, so we'll move on to the next part of the public hearing, is the presentation from the applicant. So if the applicant can come down, there is a sign-up sheet there, and if you can push on the little speaker button, mic, and then you can speak into the mic when you're ready.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Thanks for having me tonight. My name is Christine Lee. I am one of the project managers out here for Qualico Communities. And I am in charge of most of our neighborhoods out here in Stony Plain, which includes the one we're hearing tonight for Westara Stage 20.
Just hold on a second, you just have to push a button to share your screen.
Oh, okay, my
There it is.
apologies. Okay.
Go ahead.
Just show you the staging plan here. Qualico has been building out in Westara for the last 20 years. And eventually, I'm happy to announce that we are in the final stages of development out here. Last year, we did get our Stage 19 approved, so we are underway in getting that constructed this year. Stage 20, that is shown in orange, is what we're here for today. We are also working on that one as well. So a little bit of background. So last year, as mentioned earlier from Miles, we did get a rezoning done for the rest of the neighborhood. So a lot of it was done R5, and we also have P1 zones out here as well, and P3. R5, as you can see, we did get zero lot line development areas highlighted in the red there, approved for Stage 19. As mentioned before as well, we do have an approved subdivision. So our approved subdivision in total for detail right now has 6 lots for single detached front zero lot line that was approved last year as part of the area. We also have 28 semi-detached front drive lots shown in blue. And then our current approval, condition of approval, includes 28 lots for row housing development with a total of 62 lots for Westara Stage 19, or sorry, Stage 20, my apologies. So the proposal we have tonight is to add to the zero lot line area development. So we are hoping to add the internal block of that neighborhood to add to the zero lot line development area. And so that's what we're here today. That will add more products to our rear zero lot line products for the area. So the proposed housing types for this plan will now include, it will have the same amount of lots for single detached front zero lot line products. It will still have the same 28 duplex front drive products, but in terms of our single detached rear product, we will now have 24 lots, which is a little bit of a decrease. So we will be proposing 58 lots if pending the results from tonight's public hearing. And that concludes everything that I would like to say for this one. So I just thought it would be great to kind of show you a visual of what we have planned, approved, and what we plan to kind of bring on if it was to go well today. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your presentation. Members of council, any questions for clarity and understanding? Okay. Councilor Anderson, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Ms. Lee, for being here with us this evening. One of the things that I often wonder is why zero lot line? And so certainly, we've debated this at the council table, and there's been a number of different conversations. But from Qualico's perspective, if you wouldn't mind sharing, what are you hearing or what are you seeing that leads to the push for additional zero lot lines as opposed to, in this case, the row housing units?
Tim, go ahead.
Thank you, Councillor Anderson. Through to you. Councillor, here at Qualico, we basically try to provide entry-level product types for a lot of our communities here. In terms of the push for zero lot line products over a regular RSL or a regular single-family product is the savings on one side of the house. So typically how we sell the lots is it goes by front foot. So when you require 2 side yards, you're essentially paying the front footage for more side yard for this potentially same amount of house. And so the reason why the zero lot line works, it's because there is a lot of folks out there who would like to purchase a single family home, and the zero lot line product allows them to do that.
Thank you. I do appreciate that. Certainly that would be a change from the single-family residential with, you had mentioned the easements on both sides. This one, if I've understood correctly, we were going from row housing now to zero lot lines.
Correct.
Wouldn't have, each unit wouldn't have the easement on both sides. And so maybe just a little bit of commentary, if you wouldn't mind, for this area in particular, to go from the row housing to zero lot lines.
Sure. Through to you, Councillor Anderson. For us, our perspective is right now, Westera neighborhood as a whole has been developed for 20 years, and we've incorporated a couple of new product types in the last couple years, and we just figured at the last stage, we thought it would be nicer to keep it as a more cohesive neighborhood with the product types that has been approved to date. And as for the townhome units, we are looking through it to incorporate it in our South Creek and Tussock area, which is a newer neighborhood that we plan to work towards in 2026. And so for townhomes, for the townhome products in particular, we are looking to incorporate in other areas of Stony Plain. And we thought that it would be a better fit to continue the zero lot line products that have been approved in the neighborhood.
Thank you. Anything else?
No, I appreciate that, and certainly not here to chat about South Creek and Tussock, but exciting to hear that you're looking at those areas and potentially the product that you're shifting away from here into those areas as well. So appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Laurie.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you for the presentation. Actually, I really appreciate that commentary about trying to keep kind of the look and feel of the community the same, and that's why the change is being considered. We don't often see a change that reduces the number of lots, so it was that's great reasoning, and I think that's a great respect to the community as well. I just wanted to ask you one other question. Again, as you've already heard, we have our own planning advisory committee that's requested at this time. We don't do any more zero lot lines. Obviously, Qualico builds in many communities. Can you provide a little bit of perspective of, how many other communities Qualico builds zero lot lines in, what kind of feedback you experience there, what kind of challenges, and whether it's something that Qualico is looking to continue pursuing, or is it something that you see an industry moving away from?
Thank you. Through to you, Councillor Laurie. For us, we believe that zero lot line continues to be a very attainable product for those who are looking for single-family homes in general. Talking to some of our builders, they do mention that there's now an increase of a lot of multi-generational housing, and so the zero lot line provides an option that is a more attainable option for them to house more people in a house. And then in terms of the marketability in different neighborhoods, there has been a lot of people looking for zero lot line products. For example, in the city of Edmonton, where the market has become a little bit too expensive, and so they have been searching into other areas where we do have some stories of families moving out here to Stony Plain, for example, to look for that type of product type and price points. And then in terms of marketability, compared to a regular single-family home, some of our builders have mentioned that you can sell 2 zero lot line homes to one single-family home, and so it also sells a lot faster, given the savings that you get from not paying the extra side yard.
And then further to that, obviously in Stony Plain, we have some additional rules around zero lot lines. Things like the not allowing to build a fence further than the projection of the back, having to keep the easement clear, so on and so on, not allowing front drive across from front drive. Do you see those same kind of considerations in other communities, or is that something that's unique to Stony Plain?
Through to you, Councillor Laurie, that has been something that we've seen in other communities as well, and we do respect that, and we'll work with products on the placement, strategic placements of where these zero lot lines products are located.
Thank you. And then I'm not sure if you would have any feedback as of yet, but obviously this subdivision has some of this product in it already that is now occupied and so on. Have you found that any of those restrictions have caused challenges for homeowners, or the zero lot line has caused challenges for any of those owners? Or has the experience been relatively similar to that of a regular single-family detached?
Through to you, Councillor Laurie, I haven't heard any concerns for the community yet. I know we've only built a couple so far, but in terms of the sales, it has been, I think there's like stage 17, for example, it's all sold out already. Stage 18 will most likely sell it this year. There has been inquiries for specifically the zero lot line products that are there. And so typically from a builder's perspective, you won't see real traction on any of these listings until they're 2 to 3 months from completing their build. And right now the builders are working on completing some of the builds for that stage right now.
Excellent. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Moving over to Councilor Pletchko.
Yeah, thank you, Worship. I actually have a couple of questions, and I'm going to start with the first one. You've made mention several times the cost savings related to this. How big is the cost savings that it's attracting people to the market?
Through to you, Councillor Pletchko. Right now, the cost savings, I would say, is about $20,000 to $30,000 per, compared to, like for a zero lot line versus a single family home. That's just based off because lots are sold by the front footage. And so when you have an extra 4 feet of frontage that you have to pay for to incorporate the 2 side yards, that becomes more of a hindrance for those who are looking for more attainable housing options.
If I can carry on. So related to the 20 to 30K, of that, what percentage of that is given actually back to consideration when you're putting the product on the market?
Sorry, do you mind repeating that, Councillor Pletchko?
So what percentage of the 20 to 30K? You're telling me that there's a savings in that. So how do we know that that actually is being put back on in favor of the person that's looking to purchase that? What portion of that do they actually get to see when it comes to purchasing the home? And how is that related to a market value?
Right, so I'm not too familiar with how it affects the market value, to be honest, but for the housing, the person purchasing the home, when they're comparing pricing between a single family home with 2 side yards versus a zero lot line home that has a 1 side yard, there's a difference when it comes to looking at the listing price. And then when you're considering a zero lot line home, most of it nowadays comes with 1 bed and 1 bath on the main floor, and that becomes very desirable. And a lot of those products for zero lot line in particular are a little smaller than your regular single family home, and so that becomes the cost savings there. It's reflected in the list price, and when you're comparing the same amount of house on a smaller piece of land, you will see the savings come through that way.
Okay, so to be clear, if we built the identical house on a regular R4 lot or whatever versus a zero lot line, same builder, same finish, will be $20,000 to $30,000 lower.
Correct, that's what I hear from our builders.
Okay, I think that's what the clarity, I think. Okay, anything else? You had a couple more, so.
One more question, if I could, and then I'll let somebody else. So on a couple occasions, you made mention of more people in the house. When you're building something smaller, I'm just curious how we're getting more people in it and how that affects the neighborhood. If you're putting more people in it, there'll be more vehicles, there'll be more traffic that comes out of it. So how does that affect our area?
Through to you, Councillor Pletchko. Right now, the concept is to have, what I've been hearing, multi-generational housing has been a desire for a lot of folks that are moving to not only this area, but to the region in general. And so in terms of traffic volumes, everyone still gets the same double-car garage with their driveways. And so in terms of the parking situation, it remains the same in terms of what they get for that house. Now, when it comes to the people purchasing the house, we're actually not sure whether or not it will be for an end user for generational housing purposes, but and generally, that's what the builders have been seeing recently, and I'm not sure if how the vehicle or traffic has been affected by that.
I'll leave it at that. I've got more questions related to traffic.
Okay, anything else? No? You're good?
I'll leave it for that.
Okay. Deputy Mayor, go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you, Mrs. Lee, for coming. I'm curious, because I asked our administration earlier in regards to the across the street there. This evening, I see you brought this Stage 20 plan here. I'm curious, how committed are you to this plan? And would it be reasonable for me to expect this to be the plan in a year from now, or would it be possible that you would be coming again and looking for more zero lot line?
Okay, go ahead.
Through to you, Councillor Meyer. Right now, we are pretty committed to the plan. We have already started engineering and detailed design for this area. And so if the plan was to change now, there are significant timeline delays when it comes to making any changes to the product type at this time for the semi-detached.
Okay, and then, so we have seen you guys come and make several applications for zero lot lines over the years. I'm just curious, two-part question. One, how have you found that process? And two, maybe if you just maybe offer a bit of your guys' perspective in coming and getting the approvals bit by bit.
Go ahead.
Yes, thank you for the question, Councillor Meyer. The process has been generally pretty straightforward. I think it's fairly expected for a new product when they're entering a new municipality, for example. And so for us, I think the education piece has been hopefully helpful to council in the last couple of years for this product type. In other municipalities, right now, zero lot line typically is already baked into their land use bylaw, and so we're able to already just kind of, without needing to go through another council to get every single area added to a development area appendix. Most of our municipalities already allow for that product type.
Anything else? No, sounds good. Okay, Councillor Loynes.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you to Qualico. Did I hear you correct when you said each of these zero lot line homes would have double car garages and driveways?
Through to you, Councillor Loynes, that's correct.
And are you building those garages?
We do have our builders that will build those garages, yes.
Okay. So on that then, if it didn't go to zero lot lines and we left it at single detached, sorry, it was single detached was originally, or was it?
Originally was approved for townhomes.
Okay, so if it were townhomes, could you then tell me what the parking would have been?
The parking would also, I believe, would still fit a double car garage with driveways,
But more houses?
but 4 more units at this point, correct?
Okay. A question got brought up, if I can, Your Worship, with concerns over multi-generation homes, and this isn't directly to you. At the end of the day, the houses get built, we can't determine who purchases it and ends up living there, right? So in my mind, I'm sitting here thinking 4 less homes, that'll help with parking, guaranteed double car garage, whether they use it as parking or storage, depends on the home, as well as at least there's a driveway. So to me, I guess that sounds like a positive. But when you talk about multi-generation, then I'm going to look for administration. Would zero lot lines allow for the secondary suite?
The answer is no.
Just confirming. Thank you, administration.
I think we've dealt this, I think it's right in there. Go ahead.
Your Worship, to Councillor Loynes, no, there are no accessory dwellings or secondary dwellings allowed in the R5, which this area is zoned as. Please note that what Christine here has indicated is that it would be just a first floor bedroom with a bathroom, just like you could have an office or a den. In some cases, it's converted into a bedroom. I believe that's what she's referring to as opposed to a secondary suite explicitly.
Awesome, appreciate it. Thank you, that's all from me, Your Worship.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for clear understanding? Go ahead, Councilor Niebergo.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you to Ms. Lee. Just a question, these are rear garage?
Through to you, Councillor Niebergall. Yes,
Oh, well done.
I had to ask for this, but you are correct. These are rear detached. These would be rear detached zero lot line products.
Okay. And I too am kind of like mulling over the same thing of, 28 single homes versus potentially 24 multi-generational homes, and then the impact of
Okay.
congestion.
Okay, let's just clear the air for a bit second. So it's not 28 single-family homes, it's 28 row housing homes. So it's not the same as a single family. They're still classified as a single-family home, but those can also be multi-generational as well. As already mentioned by Councilor Loynes, like, we can't control who actually lives in there. So that's not part of the debate. I think the debate is, do we change this R5, which has been already zoned as R5, that has been planned for row housing for 28 units, or does town council approve the change of the zoning to keep it still R5, but to allow it to be zero lot lines for 24 units? Yeah. So I think I've heard some different things about why we're trying to do. So my question is, why would the developer want to reduce the density? Many developers that come to the town's plan are always looking to increase density, so therefore they can reduce the cost, they can sell more units, et cetera. So why is Qualco looking at reducing the density here?
Thank you. Through to you, Mayor Choi. For us, again, it's keeping that neighborhood characteristics that we've currently developed in here for the last 20 years. Most of it has been fairly low density, and adding to what we have already introduced in the last couple of years, which included some zero lot lines, some duplexes. We figured it would be nice to end off the community with the same look and feel that we've been building for the last couple of years.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Okay. Councilor Pechko, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. You made mention a couple of times, and I'm going to refer more to what Councilor Myers was talking about the subdivision. When you originally come and we approved this subdivision, we heard you make the comment, and I think it was the other two gentlemen that were here a couple of times in that process, that they had already had a fine detail as to what that subdivision looked like. And if we approved it the way it was, there would be no change to it. Yet tonight, you're here asking for more change. Going back with your theme about keeping it the same look, what would change your mind from having the same look across the street in another year's time if that was a successful portion?
Okay, go ahead.
Through to you, Councillor Palechko, are you asking if we have zero lot lines or Crofton zero lot lines
No,
in the future?
I think the question is around members of council, and even what we heard from our planning advisory committee is, the question right now is to ask to change the east side of the drive to zero lot lines. What is the assurances that we have that Qualco does not come in a year to ask zero lot lines on the west side of the road? I think we want some security, want some understanding of what's going on, but I know our bylaws, have this little bit of extra red tape asking you to come back because this is a new product in our community. But if we can't be sure that you're good and settled and ready to go, if this is going to be a yearly thing where every 6 months we want to change another part of something to be zero lot lines, then that's a conversation that we need to have. So how sure are you with the other side of the street?
Thank you. Through to you, Councillor Palechko. Right now, we are sure. We are already advancing with our detailed engineering at this point. And once we get our engineering approval, we would be what we call shovel ready and ready to go if the market changes.
Okay, Councilor Lowry, go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. And just a question based on that. based on Qualico's current plans, the phasings that are already complete and the phasings that are currently under construction, when is it that we could anticipate that Qualico would be looking to do the actual groundwork for this? You've talked a lot about the engineering. Obviously, we know, you mentioned shovel-ready. As soon as things are shovel-ready, the next step is construction. Once services are being in place, it's a very difficult prospect to change those services, to change the format of the lots. So I guess based on what's being asked tonight, when is it anticipated that Qualico will actually be in the ground, putting the services in for this lot plan?
Through to you, Councillor Laurie. Right now, the earliest time would be potentially next year, next spring. Not this spring, but the spring after. Right now, we are looking at getting our engineering approvals, and when that's completed, then there's a lot of internal processes before we can get ourselves ready for groundbreaking, for this stage particular.
Excellent, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any more questions for clear and understanding from members of council? Okay. I do have one question, I think it was addressed. You mentioned that people are looking for multi-generational homes, and I think that brought a red flag to all members of council. Is that the intended audience for these zero lot lines when it's changed?
Through to you, Councillor Choi, no, that's not the intent of, I can't obviously control who lives in any of these units. It was just an observation that some of our builders have come back and mentioned for that specific clientele. And so that's just what I thought I would relay to council, just for some information.
Okay. We'll keep that as information when we debate it. Thank you. Any other questions for clear and understanding? Okay. See none, thank you for the presentation. We'll go through the next the rest of the process. Okay, that ends our presentation from the applicant. So moving on to all those that are in favor of the proposed bylaw change and amendment. Administration, has anybody registered to speak?
Through your worship, no one has registered.
Okay. Anybody in the audience like to speak in favor of the proposed bylaw amendment? Okay, seeing none, move on to the next one. All those that are opposed to the proposed bylaw amendment. Administration, has anybody registered?
Through your worship, no one has registered.
Okay. Anybody in the gallery like to speak in opposition of the proposed bylaw amendment? Seeing none, we'll move on to the next phase, which is all those that have a general comment about the proposed bylaw amendment. Administration, has anybody registered?
Through your worship, no one has registered.
Okay, last chance. Anybody in the gallery like to speak in any general comment about the proposed bylaw amendment? Okay, seeing none, we move on to now the applicant has the ability to summarize if they like. Does the applicant like to summarize anything? Okay, the applicant is good. So with that, we're looking at to end our public hearing. Administration, did we follow the process set out through the MGA to make sure that everybody had the ability to speak on this amendment?
Through your worship, yes, we have.
Okay, so with that, then I'll declare bylaw 2731/LUO/35, West Area Stage 20, land use bylaw amendment closed. We'll be doing that a little bit later in our agenda, which is number 8 of our agenda package. Okay, thank you. Right, members of council, with the public hearing closed and over, moving on to the adoption of our council minutes. Today we just have one, which is the council minutes of January 12th. Move over to Councillor Laurie.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll move the Town Council approve the January 12th, 2026 regular council meeting minutes as presented.
Okay, thank you. Members of council, questions, comments on the minutes? Okay, seeing none, I did see one that I wanted to make note of. Maybe administration can provide it to me. I believe on January 12th, when we adopted the minutes, there was supposed to be an amendment to the minutes, because there was an error in terms of Deputy Meyer, Eric Meyer, and then there was also a spelling mistake. So I think, was that as amended or as presented?
Thank you. Through your worship to all of council. With our changes in the procedure bylaw last year, we did allow the clerical amendments to be made by Ledge Services without a formal motion of council. Those were what we considered clerical amendments. Should council wish to have that as amended, it did not change the content of the minutes. So we did not put it as amended because of the procedural bylaw authority.
Okay, I'm good with that as long as it was corrected. Council, are you guys good with that as well? Okay, with that, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Okay, and that is carried. All right, moving on to number 7, which is council boards and committee minutes. Looking at 7.1, which is the Culture and Tourism Roundtable from November 12th, and also the Planning Advisory Committee from December 9th. Councilor Loyens?
The town council received the council board and committee minutes for information.
Thank you. Members of council, the opportunity to read them. Any questions, comments to the council appointees, or just questions for clarity and understanding? Councilor Lowry, go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. This one will be through you to administration in regards to the Planning Advisory Committee. I was going over some documents that we have in respect to the committees, and I'm just curious in regards to the composition of the committee. Being that this is a Planning Advisory Committee, are there any requirements for appointed members in regards to subject matter experts? Like when we're doing committee selection, interviews, and so on for our Planning Advisory Committee, do we require any type of planning background? Do we look for construction background? Like, are there any parameters, or is it simply just a composition of general community members?
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you, through your worship, to Councillor Lowry. Our terms of reference that are part of the enabling bylaw does not specify specific criteria or expertise needed for the members.
Thank you. And then a further on question to that, being that this is a Planning Advisory Committee and they are reviewing, quite detailed proposals and so on and so forth, and then making recommendations to council on behalf of that. What type of training do members of the Planning Advisory Committee receive in respect to planning matters?
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you, through your worship, to Councillor Lowry. So when the term starts, we do an orientation with the members, and the planning staff liaison does go over what their mandate is and references the different pieces of legislation and council bylaws that they should be aware of. And then through their meetings, their regular meetings and their special meetings, they do review a number of planning documents and provide information and awareness. And I would be happy if the Manager of Planning and Development would like to speak to that further.
Okay, go ahead.
Through your worship, Member of Council, just to kind of add on what our Manager of Legislative Services had mentioned, ultimately, whenever we bring an item before council or before the Planning Advisory Committee, we do try to be very thorough, provide additional context, be clear in terms of the legislation. So although we do give kind of an overview when they first start, we do try to keep that up at their quarterly meetings, just in terms of, letting them know what's going on. If there's things specifically in the planning realm, say, again, last couple of years there hasn't been many changes to the Municipal Government Act, but when those do come through, those are things that we would inform the Planning Advisory Committee on. And again, I can't really stress, when we do present them information, we kind of go into the same level of detail as we would with council, because again, these are council bylaws generally. And then we have the opportunity there to answer any of their questions, similar to your, any member of council, any question on, background for those legislations. Given the format of the meeting, we generally can get into a little bit more detail and really provide them with that understanding if they do need it to make a decision and recommendation to council. So, thank you.
Thank you. So just further then for clarity, Your Worship. So being that this is a Planning Advisory Committee to council, what I'm hearing from you, you just referenced that they essentially get the same level of detail and same level of information as council does. So am I understanding then that we have nothing in the requirement of the terms of reference, nothing necessarily in the training, nothing necessarily in the presentations that would elevate the level of information, education, or opinion that the Planning Advisory Committee is forming, in which they are then advising council on?
Okay, go ahead.
Through your worship, to Councillor Lowry. I would say there is additional, and I would say part of that is due to the format of the meetings that we have with the PAC. So it does allow for more direct one-on-one time in terms of being able to provide some of their questions. Now, the other thing I'll kind of add to that is, again, it's a community membership board. So again, the perspective here is we're not necessarily trying to get technical planners and engineers and lawyers that have a lot of detailed understanding of how this works, but we're more trying to, so to speak, assess or get opinions from the general community, different walks of life, different experiences, and really go about all of those sort of things to get their understanding. So they do need a basic understanding of what's going on. And as I said, we do provide that at the quarterly meetings and specifically depending on what applications before them. But ultimately, we do want them to be sort of the layperson who is understanding the framework and what is being asked in that application, what is the purpose of the application, what it's changing. But ultimately, they don't need to necessarily be a planner to provide the community's input. And that's really what the Planning Advisory Committee is for.
Perfect, excellent. I appreciate that clarity, that it is more a kind of opinion and feeling-based committee versus technical and legislative-based committee. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments on the minutes? Okay. Seeing none, I'll have a question for the Culture and Tourism member. So, going through the minutes there, I noticed that it states that the chair was absent. So the vice chair called the meeting to order, et cetera. The vice chair called a dinner recess, called the meeting back to order. But then the chair declared the meeting adjourned. But I don't see anywhere in the minutes where the chair returned.
I can follow up, as I was not there. We were away at conference, but I will send a message to the chair and to our staff and see maybe if somebody can fill in the blanks on that one for you.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that clarity when you get that. Okay. Any more questions? Councilor Lori?
Thank you, Your Worship. Just to further on that, in the present, it doesn't actually list who is the chair, but I believe at the bottom of the signature line, it does say that Judy Bennett.
No, actually, above it says Public Representative Chair was Grace Churchill.
Oh, as excused absence.
Yeah, so
Worship, yeah.
I see that was an excused absence, but I didn't see where the chair actually came back to actually close off the meeting.
Thank you, Worship. That then, yeah, bodes the question too, because we have Judy Bennett as chair signing. So we'll get some clarity on that. Appreciate it.
Yes, and I think when the minutes were adopted, Judy Bennett must have been the new elected chair, which allowed her to sign off on it as the minutes. But we'll get some clarity.
Through your worship, we can also follow up on that. It is most likely a clerical error that we just missed putting vice chair instead of chair closing out the meeting, but we can confirm that as well.
Okay. And then just asking the question about chair as Judy Bennett versus Grace.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that. Okay, any more questions for clear understanding? Okay, see none, I'll call the question. All those in favor for information? And that is approved. Thank you. That is moved on to number 8, which is bylaws. So the first bylaw is 8.1, which we're dealing with the West Area Stage 20. Go ahead, administration. Anything else to add?
Your worship, to all of the council, no further comments. We're here for questions and any debate. Thank you.
Thank you. Members of council, any more questions for clear understanding to administration before I accept the motion? Okay. See none? You have one? Okay. Go ahead, Councilor Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm not sure if we're able to have the map put up there. Excuse me. There's a small version of it on page 47 of our agenda package. I'd have to scroll back for the large one. Actually, that'll work. Perfect. One of the things that I know has come up in the past with the previous stage approval in this area is around traffic and specifically traffic coming out of West Terra Grove on the west side being so directly adjacent, I guess, to Highway 779, which we know is very, very busy. We know West Terra Drive, that intersection there can be busy as well. And we have the one exit on the west side that is very, very close to that intersection. And then on the east side, that West Terra Grove actually is around a little bit of a bend in the road, which leads me to wonder about potential sight lines and so on coming out of this subdivision. And so just some commentary through you, Mr. Mayor, to administration on sort of the ingress, egress potential issues that might exist, or some of the conversation that's happened to mitigate some of those perceived concerns.
Yep. Go ahead, administration.
Through your worship to Councillor Anderson and all of council, I'll just provide sort of an overview on the area. So again, just for some clarity here, there is this little narrow white area here is a proposed 6-meter wide alleyway that would enter onto the West Terra Drive, which is a collector road. West Terra Grove, as indicated previously, has kind of a west outlet that is closer to the highway, and then an additional one towards the east that's further on, I guess where the road bends a little bit more there. Ultimately, I'll just say from a planning perspective, given that, you know, the overall area, the densities have not changed substantially by any of these compared to what the area structure plan said, we typically don't require something like a TIA at this point in time for something to that level. That said, it's usually at the detailed engineering level that they start looking at some of those things, whether there should be different measures basically constructed to mitigate some potential concerns. I may actually ask if the General Manager of Planning and Infrastructure has some additional comments in terms of the details for what those engineering items could be.
Go ahead.
Through your worship to Councillor Anderson, all of council. So as a manager of planning outlined, there's definitely some high-level planning considerations that we look at this stage. A couple of things I'll point out that are available just from this image, and then I'll add maybe some additional comments after, is we do try and align the intersections that are directly across so that they are in alignment. We don't want any skewed intersections. We try and maintain a certain amount of space in between intersections depending on the volume, the speeds, and the classifications of roads that they'll go into. As the manager pointed out, there are some detailed engineering. Geometric design comes into play after this stage. So those considerations of, say, queuing, or potential queuing issues, or sightlines, as was mentioned, those are geometric concerns. So those would be in alignment with the rest of the curvature of the road. Those do get considered when even further back, when the road is being considered, when the collector road is being considered and further adjacent roads are looked at. Those technical standards are looked at for adjacent roads as well. There are standards within TAC and MUTCD that give guidelines for these specific scenarios. So at this stage, we don't have detailed answers to that question, but it is something that we do look at as we progress down the file and the approvals with this developer, or any developer for that matter.
Okay, thank you. I think any safety concerns? I think that's the biggest question here, is, are there any safety concerns?
Through your worship, council, there's no safety concerns with what's presented to council for this item. There's nothing that administration considers worth highlighting that would from a safety perspective. Like I said, with any and maybe I'll just outline this, like any public safety concern is paramount in our dialogue with developers. Now, that's not just in transportation matters, that's with any hard infrastructure. Certainly, we're always following best practices and approvals and we do have staff that are qualified to look at that with the developer.
Okay, thank you. A follow-up on that?
If I could, Mr. Mayor, just a quick follow-up on that one. I think the safety concern that primarily comes to mind for me is a northbound right turn from 779 onto West Terra Drive. While someone's trying to exit northbound from the west side entrance of West Terra Grove, turning west onto West Terra Drive. And if that is a north-south green, I think, are we still 60 kilometers an hour, I believe they're coming around that corner, while someone's trying to come out with a row of houses in the way. And so certainly see, from my own perspective, the potential for an issue there. And so I certainly have heard administration allude to some, I think we call them geometric controls and some other things, but what measures could be implemented to mitigate any future concerns with a right turn off of 779, with somebody else turning westbound out of West Terra Grove there onto West Terra Drive. And if that didn't make sense, I can use my fancy pointer and show you what I mean, but.
Do you have a question? Can you answer that?
Thank you, Your Worship, through the Councillor Anderson and all of Council. That's a difficult one to speculate on at this stage. So there's a number of variables that we're talking about. So as I said, we always consider public safety as a paramount objective for any new development, any new implementation of infrastructure. So just a couple of thoughts here. So we do have some similar intersections like this in town that go into off of Highway 779 into Old Town. I won't say they're the exact spacing, but they have similar. They have similar distances from the main intersection that are being highlighted today. That in and of itself isn't necessarily just because we did it once doesn't mean we wouldn't look at it again. But from what's being presented here tonight, I do want to give council assurance that these are, we can take these comments back and make sure that we principally look at them with council. If there was, like I said, I've mentioned to council on a couple of occasions, we do have monitoring programs that we can employ either by reactively or proactively. So we do have traffic counting programs. We do have the ability to deploy different tracking systems to see if there's pedestrian concerns. We can follow up with residents if they're seeing some near misses, and then we can look at additional changes. So one that I will say that we did employ a couple of years ago, again, not exactly the same as this instance being discussed tonight, but one that we did look at was around John Paul II. We did implement some traffic calming off the right turn there as a result of a direct pedestrian crossing there. So we didn't have it there before the time of development. We did implement it after. In this case, we don't have a school nearby. We don't have it necessarily a direct crossing there. But if one were to, for whatever reason, materialize or a need would materialize, we could do a warrant study. We can do a traffic impact assessment on those locations individually. We do have the tools and know-how to look at those things as they progress. At this stage, though, we don't necessarily feel that that's necessary, given that we're not at that detailed stage. The applicant talked about detailed engineering coming down after this approval. Certainly here in council, and I do hear it through to our teams here, that we do want to make sure we're keeping an eye on these things.
Okay, thank you. We'll move on. Let's come back later. Councillor Laurie.
Thank you, Your Worship, and I had a little bit of a follow-up on that. My concern isn't necessarily the same. My concern is the number of accesses along that north side of the road, mainly being that typically alley accesses don't have as good of a sight line and so on and so forth. When I look at the current design of West Terra Drive, there is currently a boulevard that extends down, it's from 779 to West Terra Loop and West Terra Grove, and then it continues further eastbound, sort of down partially around the curve. So the way that the maps are showing, the alleyway will exit onto West Terra Drive, and there would be the boulevard there. Would there be consideration for allowing a removal of that boulevard, so now that can be left turn accessible, or would we be requiring that to be kept with the boulevard in place, which would therefore only allow right in, right out access on that alleyway, therefore essentially reducing one kind of full intersection, would you?
Your Worship, to Councillor Laurie. So again, the challenge I guess that we have here is we're speculating a little bit on the detailed engineering design that is typically done by the engineering department at this at that stage within each of the individual subdivisions. So what I can speak to right now is that we are, I believe the engineering drawings for stage 19. So again, this is the east side of West Terra Grove, not the area that we're specifically talking to about, but adjacent there, is being looked at. So this is something that our staff right now is actually just getting into the details on to start looking at how we would look at that. Reiterating what you had said there, the proposed alleyway, and I tried to bring up this map here, just kind of illustrate a little bit. There is a median right in this area here, and if you can see, it sort of tapers off right about here. So, as I believe you indicated, the alleyway would be a right in, right out from the get-go based on what's currently designed there. So again, this is something that we would be looking at more. We're now just looking at the east side of West Terra Grove. If this is approved, once the engineering drawings are applied for by Qualico for stage 20, we would look more specifically at the intersection over here. But as of right now, we're only really looking at the details in this point here. So I don't know if that fully answers your question, but that just kind of gives a status, I guess, update of where we are, what we consider, and I guess what the circumstances are of the current design as it has been designed right now.
Excellent, thank you. No, I appreciate that. It does give a little clarity without certainty, unfortunately, but again, my concern is the number of accesses onto West Terra Drive from that south side, you know, including the alleyway up to West Terra Wind. You have 4 in a very, very short period of time, which again, the more access is more problem. I would appreciate seeing that alleyway staying right in, right out. I think that reduces some challenges. I would have loved to have seen that first part of West Terra Grove actually come off of that entrance from West Terra Wind, but understanding there might have been engineering constraints, design constraints, and so on and so forth. But I think if we can at least make one of the 3 for West Terra Grove a right in, right out only, I think that'll alleviate some of the potential challenges. Again, not saying they would be challenges, but it just, yeah, to have that many intersections off of that road in that short of a span seems like it could be a little bit of a challenge.
Okay. Thank you. Councilor Pletchko.
I'm going to touch on that a little bit too. I don't want to beat a dog to death, but it seems to me when we had the first conversation about this subdivision, this was a topic of conversation, and we were told that that back alley would not be accessible from the street. It would have a roundabout at the end of the alley so that they could turn and not go onto the street. And yet now we're hearing that that could be a full-blown entrance. I think part of that conversation that we had the first time, if I'm remembering correctly, I can see you looking a little bit puzzled over there, Miles, but in my recollection, we had this discussion with this particular, especially with the row houses that was going to go there with the back alley and how that would be accessible to the street. So it'd be interesting to see that at a very busy intersection, I don't know if you've been there, there's buses that park at that intersection. There's a number of things that happen early in the morning there, and the amount of traffic that comes out of there, having a back alley right there, I think it would be a hard topic for discussion.
Right, thank you for bringing that up. I do remember that conversation because I did bring that point up because there's a few subdivisions in Spruce Grove that butt onto Jennifer Highway that comes onto Jennifer Highway, which they do bob out and then people turn around. And the administration mentioned that because this wasn't in the engineering phase yet, they'll look at it, as mentioned by our staff, that we do have measures to change that, alter that in the future, but until it actually becomes to the engineering drawing stuff, they weren't committal because this, again, this is not our property. And I think one of the biggest things that we harped on was, does it fit safety codes in terms of traffic safety, sightlines, and the answer was yes. So I think that's why we approved stage 20 at that time. Okay, any more questions for clarity on the bylaw amendment? Okay, see none. Councilor Pletchko, since you spoke last, why don't you make the motion for second reading, please?
Thank you, Your Worship. The Town Council gives second reading to bylaw 2731/LUO/25, a bylaw to amend land use bylaw 2719/LUO/25.
Okay, thank you. Members of council, the motion is on the floor. We can talk about it, make comments, debate it, and so forth. Members of council, it is open. Councilor Lowry, go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. I wanted to save this for this part because I didn't want to get into debate in the presentations of the public hearing. The comment on multi-generational housing, there's a lot of hang up on that. The reality is multi-generational housing has existed for a very long time. It's prevalent in many different cultures and so on and so forth. And square footage and space is not necessarily usually a determining factor in that. Multi-generational housing exists in everything from acreage lots with multiple homes on it, all the way down to quite literally apartments. Seen it, I've experienced it in my life, where you will have houses or apartments or any type of building, residential building, where quite literally the individual families will occupy one of the bedrooms. Not just an individual person, not just a parent or child or so on, but quite literally where one family will live in one bedroom, another family in another bedroom, maybe elderly parents in another bedroom, and so on. As you mentioned, I think it was, we can't dictate who buys homes. We can't dictate how many people they necessarily have in those homes, how many people they choose. Just like we can't determine with certainty whether every person in that home drives, owns a vehicle, or any of those factors. So while there's obviously contemplations as to, you know, what worst case scenarios can be, I think, you know, we have a lot of other things that we put in to control what we can control. Like, for instance, in this type of zoning, not allowing secondary suites is definitely one of those ways that we can control, because typically if you have a secondary suite, that's not usually occupied by somebody who is a relation, meaning the likelihood of having additional vehicles is probably higher than it would be if it's maybe a multi-generational home where there's an elderly parent group who maybe they have to live there because they no longer are independent, which would likely mean they don't have a license, which would likely mean they don't have a vehicle. So, you know, we talk a lot about the infinite, I'll call it. There are almost an infinite number of scenarios as to what the occupancy of a housing can be, can look like. I think, you know, when we're thinking about these things, when we're looking at these things, I think we have to get down to the more granular detail of, as you mentioned, our bylaws, our regulations, land use, et cetera, guiding, as was referenced earlier. You know, I would love to see more information in regards to the building code. I'd love to see more information around zero lot lines and the building code requirements of a zero lot line home or a 1.5 meter distance versus a 2.4. We could get into endless debate on whether vinyl siding should be allowed on any home, regardless as to whether it's 1.5 meters or 2.4 meters. You know, there's lots of those type of details that we could get into that we may actually be able to make meaningful decisions, changes, additions, and so on and so forth. So I just wanted to bring that up for a little bit of context. To state that, you know, it was something that was stated. There's a market that is looking for multi-generational housing. Maybe from an affordability standpoint, they want multi-generational housing. Maybe from an affordability, the word that I love that I heard was attainable entry-level housing. We talk a lot about making sure we have housing variety available in this community for people. One of the biggest barriers to entering the housing market is cost. That is one of the biggest barriers as to people being able to actually become homeowners, is the cost. And if we have a way that we can allow people to attain meaningful housing within our community in a relatively regulated, safe community, I think that's what we should be focusing on.
Thank you, Councilor. Any other questions, comments, and debate on the motion? Councilor Meyer, Deputy Mayor, go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship, and where to begin? Okay, so this evening I was kind of focused a little bit on what does it look like next? When's our next ask? And I guess I mean there would be is a bit of a personal opinion. I might, and maybe some of my fellow councillors share. Thinking back to when we made our first zero lot line approval in this neighborhood several years ago. And I will characterize it just myself. I was left with the impression that that was a trial run. And you could make an argument that you would need more zero lot line product to give an accurate picture or trial run. And so maybe that is what we are seeing, but that's not how it came to us. It came to us piece by piece, and so I'm left kind of feeling, I don't want to give it a wrong characterization, but a bit taken advantage of in that it came bit by bit, and it feels kind of like the goalposts keep getting moved. Now, this evening, I asked the applicant how committed they are to this plan, and then it was asked again a second time, and we heard pretty committed, and we heard right now. And so just going back to how this has shaken out so far, I'm going to say that those are not very committed answers at all. I do appreciate our applicant's honesty in not giving us, false expectations there, but, and I would even posit that maybe this is what the Planning Advisory Committee is a little bit concerned about too, is being used to legitimize something that maybe on the first blush we weren't given the full picture. And so this evening, I guess that's kind of what I struggle with, because I have seen fairly dense neighborhoods in Stony Plain, and I do know that they are going to be traffic congestion. There is going to be parking issues, and those will filter down into other issues in regards to clearing snow. And then, I mean, I know this council is at some point going to have to talk about ticketing and towing during snow clearing, and this will definitely be one of those neighborhoods that will drive that conversation. So, the other thing. So I asked our applicant how they experienced this and the sort of the piecemeal approach that they've come to us, and again. We heard she hoped that council had a learning opportunity. And so, again, I go back to how this was brought to us. Maybe if I'd been given the whole picture to begin with, I could expect certain learning expectations from that. Instead, I've learned that we're going to be given these things little bit by little bit. And so, so just that. So that makes it hard for me to say, oh, I can have a good outlook on how this neighborhood is going to look like in its end result. And so I'm left kind of guessing where the final picture is going to be left. So it's hard for me to give this approval for that reason. Also, and again, this is just my own characterization of our first zero lot line approval, but I thought we were doing a small chunk to get an idea of what it is. And again, that's not what we wound up looking at, and so how can I assess when I'm only given picture piece by piece? So that's just my comments. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Moving on to Councillor Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm going to reserve comment here for a second, but I do have a question of process, and just simply looking for an understanding, whether it's from yourself or administration, the reasoning behind having second and third reading during the same council meeting as the public hearing.
Go ahead, administration.
Thank you, through your worship, to all of council. So that decision of how the town did their public hearings has been in our procedure bylaw for a number of years. Typically, it's just to speed the process along, but however, council does have the ability to just give second reading and move third reading to another date should they want more information. It's really just a process to provide an expedited process if required, but still provides the flexibility to move at a different pace should council wish.
Okay, and as well, I'll just add, as well, also to uphold the intent of the Municipal Government Act, because this was a public hearing which allowed a formal opportunity for all members of our public and presenters to speak, that if we walk away from this, if we did second reading, we didn't do third reading for another 2 weeks, that gives an opportunity for people that were not actually participating in the actual public hearing to approach members of council and provide input, which is not then at all of council at the same time, which then is actually not a fair process. So that's one of the reasons why we've strayed away from doing that, so that when we do have something that is during a public hearing, is that all the balance of council has all the information heard at the same time with the same conversation.
Okay, and if I may, Mr. Mayor, I will add then just a brief comment here. Certainly appreciate what you're suggesting, after knowing members of our council and serving together the last 4 years, having the opportunity to know Councillor Niebergall before her time on council, I truly believe I would trust the integrity of the individuals at this table, and if there ever was a need to defer a reading of a bylaw after a public hearing, that the integrity of council members would allow that to happen. The reason that the question comes up for me today has a lot to do with feedback from the community on zero lot line. Certainly, each member of council has received anecdotally feedback. I'm quite confident in that. But we did hear this evening that there was a specific report from administration coming in next week, specific to zero lot lines and feedback from the community. And my hope would be feedback from operations staff and so on as much as possible. And so my wish in a perfect world is that we would have been able to receive that report prior to this decision this evening. And so that question around expediency, if that's one of the reasons that we do this, my wonder is if there's, potentially an opportunity, and again, I'm not going to make a motion to this effect at this moment, but to have second reading and potentially defer third until after council has an opportunity to receive that zero lot line report from administration. So just a couple of thoughts.
Okay, thank you for those thoughts, and we can definitely mull that over as we continue to the conversation of debate and questions and answers. Councillor Pletchko, go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Worship. A little bit of a comment, I guess. As we tackle that multi-generation, I think the reason I brought it up tonight was I think one of the things was the talk that we're going to have at this table this evening around what can actually happen in a home. Don't need a suite, and it don't need to be a rental. We can add as many people as we want to the houses today. And I think one of the things that we all need to keep in mind is as our society changes, the needs for those homes change drastically, and we're seeing that now. And one of the things that we have to keep in mind is when we're approving these type of things in our community is that can change. And where they're placed within our community can have a drastic effect on traffic flow and patterns. It can have a drastic effect on how many people are in each of the areas. And I think that's some of the things that we need to be keeping in mind as we move through this. It's not the fact that it's a zero lot line, because, we do have some separation between what's there, if you think about it. So a true zero lot line is zero. They're stacked on top of each other. And we've been able to keep a bit of a lot line between them that allows for certain things to happen. We've put some pretty good things in place that allows for the homeowner, when they want to buy it, they can get some reports that they need that haven't happened in the past. One of the things that I was really disappointed in tonight that I really hope Qualico would have talked about is the future of Stony Plain. And she quickly rushed through Tussock and South Creek. We've got approvals in South Creek for them to put in stuff that they have chosen not to, because they want not to build the road at this current time and finish up a subdivision, which I appreciate, don't get me wrong. I think it's good that they're doing that. But she made very little reference to what Tussock and South Creek would allude to or look like, other than the fact that they would leave the zero lot line in West Terra where it is. Now, again, we've seen Qualico at the table a number of times tell us something and come back with something else, which always puts me in a precarious position when it comes to making a decision. I appreciate that Qualico develops in our community, but I also think that Qualico quite often holds us at the gun when it comes to making those decisions. And we've seen the lack of movement within our community for a number of years. We've heard a number of times that Qualico has no need for single-family lots, but if you truly look at what's happened in West Terra, the single families have now sold out. There's 2 lots left, and talking to the developers that are out there, they're probably going to be gone in a very short period of time. And then what do we have left? Tussock and South Creek, which are probably 2 to 4 years down the road before we actually get to see that. So what we need to really decide to tonight is, how much growth do we want within our community? What does that growth look like? And at what speed? And I think that's some of the questions that I'm grappling with here, and I'm hoping each one of you bring a perspective tonight to the table that allows us to understand, each one of us to understand, what we see and how we see the community, because I think Councillor Anderson made a good point. We've all heard from our residents, no more zero lot lines. But they don't truly understand what a zero lot line is within our community, I don't think yet. And I don't know that we do either. And he made a good point. We probably should see if there's a report coming before we finally make a decision on this next step. That is a report that we should see so that when we make that decision, it's a very prudent decision based on what we do within our community. So that's just a comment that I have for right now, and I'll look to listen to the rest of council to see what you bring forward, which will help me make my decision going forward. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you, Councilor Leschko. Move over to Councilor Niebergall, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm a little bit all over the place here too, so I'm just gonna kind of figure out where I'm gonna start here. I think I'm gonna start with the multi-generational home, and it's not that I'm getting hung up on this. It was presented to us that that is, in a sense, a marketing ask, that people are coming out here and we see a desire for that. So I think not that we, in a sense, control who and how many move into our homes, but if it is being marketed in such a way that we need to be mindful of what that potentially brings. That being said, I also respect the fact, or the desire, to keep the same look and feel of the development. I am concerned about the congestion, and the image was up there, but it's on page 7 of our document there, where it's getting pretty X'd out in terms of the zero lot line lots in there. So that does concern me. Just, you know, like young families in there, the number of vehicles, the kids, the potential safety piece of that. And then on the other side, I think about, we just had a public hearing. I think too that we need to, I would like to have the feedback document to make a truly informed decision. I will tend to lean towards right now the planning committee because they have explored that further in their recommendation. But not having anything come in from the community in you know, yay or nay in the public hearing, that leads me to believe is no news good news. I'm not sure. So at this moment, I'm kind of a little bit living in both worlds. Yeah, I'm gonna listen to everybody else and then decide from there. But I will repeat that I would love to see the feedback document. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Niebergall. Councilor Loynes, go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. I want to start off by saying I appreciate the words and perspectives shared by all my colleagues here at the table. As I had mentioned earlier, I was pleased to see the reduction in the number of homes that also has now the potential to reduce traffic and the number of vehicles in the area without dictating how many people have how many vehicles. The applicant did explain that this reduction was to help maintain the existing feel and overall look of our community, which I believe is really important. We talk about that constantly. We don't want to see huge apartments in the middle of single development homes or anything like that. So I think the fact that the applicant has taken time to actually look around and see what's there, even if they are the ones that built it all, to at least see that they want to maintain how that looks and feels. I also believe that the attainability is a strong and positive reason for this application. As council, we sit here frequently and discuss how to make Stony Plain more affordable and to allow a variety of different types of housing. Well, yes, the concerns about multi-generational living were raised. I would note that, again, ultimately, we cannot control who purchases these homes and who lives in them, regardless of the housing type. Traffic was discussed as a potential issue. However, I see similar road designs throughout our community. Hyde Park is one example that comes to mind. I know our staff will monitor this and be very cautious in what it looks like. Again, they can always come forward and recommend changes. Again, we've seen that with Greybrier, where they had parking on both sides. They changed it to parking only on one side. It is something that can be addressed and adjusted if required. I do have faith in our staff in order to maintain that. Again, the term zero lot line seems to carry a lot of negative perception, but many of the same concerns, such as parking, exist with other housing forms that we see with row housing and duplexes. I believe the applicant has done a great job in their planning to make sure this style of development will work, and we are not living in a cookie-cutter world. We cannot expect all of our residents to want or need the same style home.
Okay, thank you for your comments. Any other questions, comments, debate? Councilor Laurie, go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. Appreciate kind of a lot of what I've heard around the horn, and now I've got a few additional comments to the ones that I brought forward from the actual public hearing part. I first just want to address the report that is coming to the GMP. What we're talking about is hearing about the construction of 10 homes. That's what we have currently. Or 10 zero lot line lots constructed. I don't think that there's going to be any significant feedback that we're going to hear from that. That wouldn't be feedback that we've already heard. One of the biggest indicators to me, though, is the fact that those were bought, constructed, and occupied in a relatively quick manner. There was mention about subdivisions, and in particular, I'll focus on Qualico. Qualico does have another subdivision in Stony Plain that they've been trying to finish off for some time in Silverstone, which is large lot, R2 residential. And that is not being built out. Those lots aren't selling like hotcakes. Those homes aren't going up rapidly like you see in West Terra, where they have a variety of, again, attainable products, where there are duplex homes, where there are smaller lot homes, where there are zero lot line homes. So while, yeah, I'd love to hear more information on South Creek and Tussock. We heard a very, very brief overview of that today. We heard about taking some of the build form in the row housing type units, the townhome type units, and moving those over into South Creek and Tussock, which would indicate to me maybe a consideration of either a combination or maybe those in favor of zero lot line, so on and so forth. So again, that's a lot of speculation, but we also have a significant amount of other development in our community. We've got Fairways North, Willows Exclusive, Brickyard, Tanglewood, Sun Meadows, all of those areas where we can look and we can see at what type of development people who are buying new homes in Stony Plain are looking for, what they're looking at, what type of housing units they want to see, what type of housing units they're buying. That is probably our biggest indicator, is looking at what people are buying. And that shows what people are looking at. There's, again, conversations about traffic safety, which I think is absolutely paramount. There's conversations about congestion and all that. Again, I think that's great. But that goes all the way back up to the area structure plan level, where we did determine the general densities of these areas, where the traffic impact assessments and so on were done. And ultimately, there are umpteen different build forms, including the build form that was previously put in here, that we wouldn't even see. It wouldn't even get to this table, because the discussion about that density, the discussion about the traffic, the discussion about that safety happened at the area structure plan level when we determined the general densities for this area and the general construction for this area. Again, getting granular on that, this is a reduction of 4 units. Well, that would reduce the density, theoretically. That would reduce the number of vehicles, theoretically. Till you know who lives in those houses, who's bought them, we have no idea on that. But we do know a generalization of this being a medium density. And again, it hits those requirements because it is right next to a collector road and a major arterial road. This isn't a heavy density residential development that's been placed way back in the depths of a subdivision that has a very poor road network. This would be an ideal location, frankly, for a high-density unit because it is right off the major arterial road and Highway 779, which is, again, what was referenced earlier. We've seen some of those potential concepts coming in some of those other areas that we've talked about. Having those high-density units right off of those access points from the major roads, which introduces a lot of traffic to that specific intersection, a lot of right-ins, right-outs, left turns, and so on and so forth. But those roads in those areas are generally designed for it. Again, the zero lot line sample size and dip the toe in the water and so on and so forth. You know, I do understand that to a bit, but again, when I count the total number of units, I don't have the total number of zero lot line off the top of my head. I'm sure administration does, but it's still quite small. I think we're probably around 100 to 150 maximum. If that's correct, if administration has those numbers right now, that'd be great for context. Including these units, how many zero lot line lots would we have approved today?
Through your worship to Councillor Laurie and all of council. Again, these are rough estimates because again, it's just an area and these have been, based on subdivision approvals that have come along with those rezonings in most cases. But roughly right now we have a total of 79 that would be approved in West Terra and 29 in South Creek, which means we have 108 that have been proposed so far.
Right. So we know that the South Creek units at this point in time aren't and can't go ahead because of other factors that were referenced already. So we're around approximately 75, including these 24. That's a pretty low sample size. And that is all in the exact same area. Rather than spattered throughout the community with 10 here, 20 here, 30 here, this is 74 units in a nice built-out area with good traffic access. That 75 there, once that's built out, will give us a really, really good idea. But as we kind of spoke about, or as I asked the developer, zero lot line doesn't just exist in Stony Plain. It exists in many other communities, and many of the challenges that come along with zero lot line were challenges when zero lot line first came in. And it's when zero lot lines were allowed on duplex homes. It's when front drives across from front drives were allowed. It's when fences were allowed to go up to the front and there were access issues to the side of the building. There were a lot of really challenging times with that. That's why Stony Plain didn't put zero lot lines in kind of right at the beginning when they were first contemplated, because we wanted to take a cautious approach to it, allow it to develop out in other communities and learn. And we did, which is why we have the extra restrictions on our bylaw. Because we learned from those other communities, we learned some of the challenges that exist with it, and we've moved on. I completely agree. There are concerns in all new home construction when it comes to things like fire separation, fire safety. Whether it's a townhome unit, whether it has a secondary suite in it, whether it's got vinyl siding on a R2 or stucco on a duplex. They're big issues. They're big safety issues. So again, I look at this and I say, well, this has great emergency service access. If there was an emergency in this area, the way that this is being built out, we have multiple access points for emergency services. In fact, I like the back lane because the back lane provides another alternative access from a safety standpoint. So I really, really feel like we hit a lot of these on the head. I think it is a challenge that we continue to ask developers to come back to council to get the zero lot line approvals, but I will still support that is the general direction of council until such a time as we have another land use bylaw discussion that kind of centers around this until such a time as we probably get some of those reports that our administration has referenced, and frankly, until such a time as we have enough occupied zero lot line homes in the community to understand how that looks, feels, and operates. But in order to get that understanding, we have to have enough of them. And I think 75 in an area that, in ballparking off my head, we're probably looking at 200 to 250 lots between stage 17, 18, 19, 20. Maybe look at the developer. Do we have a rough number between 17, 18, 19, 20? Or admin?
Through your worship, Councillor Laurie and all of council, stages 17 through 20 have approximately 180 units, give or take.
Right. So 180. So in that small area of West Era, that last corner to finish it off, that's a pretty good sample, in my opinion. You know, we've heard from the developer approximately $20,000 to $30,000 savings from a zero lot line home to a standard 2.4 meter, 1.2 on either side. That's a pretty significant barrier for entry level into housing. I think we have all the boxes checked that I would look at when we're looking at development. And I will say this, aside from just hearing opinions of we don't like it, I am really struggling to hear the actual concern. A concern that is substantially different than a concern that would apply to any of the build forms that could be built under this zoning, or under this area structure plan, under this medium density. Traffic congestion would be a concern, whether it was the townhomes or zero lot lines, or duplexes, frankly. So I'm really listening for the specifics, and that's why I did ask about the PAC feedback, about why did the PAC make the motion in regards to no more zero lot lines. We heard fire suppression, we heard the easement distance, and then the general concern of zero lot line having more challenges. But I'm still not hearing what those specific concerns and specific challenges are, how they differ from any of our other medium density product, how they differ from like what we're seeing in the Brickyard, where we have the 3-story stacked townhome style that has the secondary suite on the main floor and the 2-story above with a double car in the back. I'm not seeing those specific differences, and so I'm listening for them. I'm hoping if there are some that they get highlighted so that that can be, but as it sits right now, I would tend to support this moving forward and see where we go from there.
Okay, thank you, Councilor Laurie. Any other questions, comments, debate on the motion? Okay, I'm going to add my 2 cents, okay? Okay. Okay, I've heard, I think everybody's gone around. I think I was going to try to provide my input. Definitely, I think, again, at the Focus Council on this is a rezoning of one part of West Era Stage 20 from currently R5 that is row housing on it to R5 that is asking for a zero lot line development. Yeah. We heard confirmations and comments about we need more single-family houses because they're all getting sold out in West Era. This is a single-family unit. Okay, so the zero lot lines are single-family, so that needs to provide some clarity. The fact that we have no accessory suites, so there'll be no official secondary suites in the R5, which is good in terms of what I see in terms of safety, in terms of kind of planning and traffic. I like the fact that it is coming from a 28 unit to 24, which then if we do the math of two cars per unit, that's less cars on the road, which addresses some of the safety issues that we just heard. Okay. I also read the PAC letter, that the PAC did support the approval of this change for this stage, But they've also recommended that council look at zero lot lines and maybe have no more in this community. So that is another conversation after this. So that they do support that as well. We heard about multi-generational homes, and, I can't be the judge of that, and I don't think anybody else can be. Sometimes people have different living arrangements, and multi-generational homes can be in every home residential unit in the community. So that doesn't weigh on this conversation for me as well. Traffic safety has been addressed a few times. I do look at the back lane access, especially with the medium in there. If, as the detailed drawings and engineering get done, if this gets approved, even if it doesn't get approved, there's still gonna be a back lane there. It has to be addressed somehow or the other way. So in terms of that, I trust our staff will have the ear on that. So changing this from row housing, R5, to zero lot line detached single family does not concern me. It actually checks off all the boxes of everything that I hear from the residents that they don't want to see. So we're getting less density. Residents want to see less density, so we got that. Traffic, well, with less density means there's less cars there, so less traffic. Checks off that again. I do share some of council's concerns talking about the west side of the development. I am not worried about if, in the future they're designing, they come back for zero lot lines. I'm afraid that they change that all to row housing. Because in the zone R5 zoning, they can have row housing up to 6 units across the street. And that does not have to come to council. That will increase the traffic, increase the congestion, and increase the number of units there. So currently, right now, it is zoned as detached R5 units. So when we talk about actually what we're talking about in terms of the land use amendment, I do not have concerns about this, because it matches everything that I've heard from our residents of reducing density, reducing traffic, and trying to make the same kind of community feel. So my biggest concern is what happens on the next side, because if the developer decides to say, you know what, I heard from council, I don't want to deal with the zero lot lines anymore, I'm just going to go and put row housing there. They just increase their density, increase the number of lots that can sold, made more money, and not have to come to council. So that's where I'll be focusing on as this develops, is what happens to the other side, is my concern. So with those thoughts in my mind, I will support second reading. Do you have you had a question or comment?
Yeah, I asked my questions. I didn't actually weigh into the debate other than the conversation about a potential deferral to another meeting. So there are a couple things that I've sort of summarized the conversation that I've heard this evening, that I heard in the presentation, that I've heard from the community into, I guess, three questions that I'm weighing this evening. With this particular asked for zero lot lines, we've heard at length, the reduction of 4 units. And the question I have there is, will this make, a meaningful impact on the lived experience of the residents there? And we've heard the argument about less units, less traffic, and so on. Certainly, I think there's a minor detail to consider there. The questions around safety and traffic flow, I think, exist regardless of what this is, whether it's zero lot line or row housing. Those questions still stand for me, and putting trust into administration in terms of what we've heard this evening around the ongoing planning and future controls and things that can be done to mitigate those. So then it leaves me with 2 additional questions. One, we talk a lot about attainable housing, and that's been mentioned a number of times this evening. And 2, what do we hear from the community? And so those are the 2 things that I feel like my decision will be based around this evening. When we talk about attainable housing, certainly I appreciate the desire of council to have attainable housing in our community, that we need to offer different housing types and forms to ensure that we can have residents at different income levels and be able to access home ownership if that's a desire that they have. I do struggle with that argument, though, in regards to what we're looking at in this particular area. And the reason for that is we're going from townhomes to what I would consider and what I've heard is a more expensive product in the single-family residential, regardless of whether it's zero lot line or not. And so we're actually taking a product that is potentially more attainable for people, and if we turn it into single-family zero lot line, it becomes less attainable. You know, if we were talking about going from single-family residential to single-family residential zero lot line, and those $20,000 to $30,000 savings would be realized, I can appreciate that. But based on what we have before us, these particular homes on this block are going to be more expensive than they would be under the current zoning that is there and the current plan that has been shared with us. And so if we're talking about having that attainable housing and having the availability at those different income levels and so on, yeah, we have some zero lot line single detached already in that neighborhood. And so this allows us another product at a lesser price point. We've heard, you know, former Councillor Hansard talked about this from a realtor perspective. And one of the concerns that has always come up isn't the actualized savings. So if we do suggest there is a savings there, it's not necessarily the first home sale, but it's everybody down the line. You know, do they realize those same cost savings as that house turns over from the first buyer to the second buyer to the third buyer? The first buyer may have a good understanding of what zero lot line entails, but does the second buyer and the third buyer and the fourth buyer? I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that we've asked that this gets put on title, so that's one way to inform future buyers, but we also know that not every buyer goes through the fine details to find that information and to understand what it is that they're getting into. And so anecdotally, it's not the first one necessarily that we're concerned about. You know, we chatted at strategic planning. One of the things that really stood out for me that came up wasn't just, you know, the decisions that we're making for our community today, but how do our decisions affect our community in the future? And are we creating those pinch points in the future? And when we have a product like this that isn't yet well understood, are we creating challenges in the future by not doing our due diligence, taking our time, assessing the product that we already have in the zero lot line category to gain perspective before adding additional units? And that's where the question for me comes in of what is our community telling us? Certainly this council, last council, my apologies, Councillor Niebuhr, took a measured approach in that we had some zoning approvals and there was a desire there to hear what that looked like. And so when I would get feedback from residents in the community about zero lot lines, I was able to lean on that to say, hey, we've taken a measured approach, we've approved so many units, and it's been this desire of council to ensure that we gain feedback from those residents who are engaging in the purchase of those units and that lived experience before we make any bigger decisions. And there seemed to be some comfort for residents in that. You know, yep, this report that may come forward may not have anything meaningful in the sense that we heard tonight it's only 10 people, but it is the lived experience of those 10. And it was a commitment that I made, and I'll speak for myself here, to the residents in our community in terms of my evaluation of zero lot line products and what that means for our community. I've heard that we have Planning Advisory Committee approval for this. Certainly appreciate administration highlighting that future approvals, there was a motion passed to not allow future zero lot lines, but the motion approving this was actually split. It wasn't a unanimous decision. And so there is an element there that says there are residents in our community and those that have been active in our Planning Advisory Committee around the zero lot line product. And so I don't see that this particular zoning is going to create more attainable housing than the current zoning, because we are going from a townhome to a more expensive product. And so I think I have an answer there. And then I think when it comes to conversations with the community, I can say our Planning Advisory Committee has provided perspective in their notes today. I think anecdotally, I've received perspective from community members that needs to be considered. And although it might be a small sample size, we do have the opportunity potentially to hear from our administration, and not just the residents there, but again, hopefully from our staff that are servicing those areas about the successes or challenges that may exist with that. And so, all things considered, I think it would be very difficult for me to see this go through second and third reading this evening.
Thank you for your comments, Councilor Anderson. Any more questions, comments, and debate on the motion? Okay, then we heard some commentary in terms of the next steps forward. I think there was mention that staff are bringing back a report that council has asked for on February the 2nd for the first GNP. So just confirming that is correct.
Your worship, all of council, that is correct. The development activities report from 2025 is planned to be presented to council on February 2nd.
Okay, so I've also heard from members of council that's during this conversations that we might be okay with passing the second reading and then holding off for the third reading. So the next meeting possible for us to deal with third reading will be February 9th. Is that enough time if the presentation comes forward and there's some questions from members of council?
Your worship, if that's the will of council, yes, we would address that.
Okay. Okay, so those are some of the options, and there's also options like as council can pass us through and then maybe decide to do all three reading, or the second, third reading as well, or there's opportunity for us not to approve it as well. Okay, any more questions, comments, debate? Okay, Councillor Plechko, as the mover, would you like to close? Okay. With that, I'll call the question. So again, this is Town Council approved second reading of bylaw 2731/LUO/25 to amend land use bylaw 2719/LUO/25. So we'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Okay, so that is carried. Okay, members of council, I've also had quite a few conversations around this table about maybe waiting for third reading to hear about the report. I'm looking at members of council. Is that kind of a consensus that we want to hear that report first? Yep. Good. Okay,
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll actually just make that as a motion that we defer this to the next regular council meeting, because I believe we have a GNP meeting where we'll see that development activities report, so I don't have the date. But I will make that motion, and if administration can add the date for the next regular council meeting to that motion, that'd be appreciated.
Thank you, Your Worship.
So the motion, did you guys capture that?
Yes, I believe we have a motion prepared for the deferral of third reading to February 9th.
Okay. Thank you, Councilor Anderson. Would you like to speak to it?
No, I've already spoken to this, and I think I ended the comments on the debate, and so I'm comfortable having spoke to this already.
Okay, with that, members of council, the floor is open. Councilor Lowry, go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. I can appreciate a thought around this, but I do want to go back to a couple of things. And the first and foremost is the fact that we had a statutory public hearing tonight. This was active in the West Era community. It was talked about by neighbors. It's been talked about, obviously, to members of council. We've heard concerns. We've been down the public hearing road a multitude of times. The other stages where there was potential zero lot lines that were considered for this, what have you, we did have a little bit of public feedback. In fact, the public feedback was so little in this, we didn't even have a written response in our council package, which is a first for zero lot lines, I believe. I'm fairly confident that is the first time I've seen a zero lot line proposal come through that had no public present and no public feedback. And typically, we only hear the public feedback if it is undesired, if the public does not want to see it. leaving this public hearing essentially open, although the public hearing portion is closed, we are now put in a position where there could be opportunity for potential lobbying, swaying, and so on and so forth of individual council members, what have you. We just had a 4-3 split vote on second reading. Well, what's to stop that from happening? This has been, in my 8 years on council, this has been our process when it comes to bylaws with public hearings. The only time I have seen us institute any type of a delay between those readings is when we haven't had a public hearing and we have determined that we do want the opportunity to hear from the public. When we want to get a little bit more information from the public on their feelings on this. I don't recall in my time ever seeing us have a public hearing, vote second reading through rather than referring it back, and then not go forward with third. We do have the developer who's come here tonight and done their presentation. We have had the opportunity for the election campaign where we heard a ton of feedback in regards to the development in the community. Frankly, I don't know that we're really going to see any information that would cause me to believe that moving away from our process and opening that opportunity outside of the public hearing for further engagement really justifies pushing that. If I felt that the report that was going to come back from administration would contain a significant amount of information, I mean, frankly, I feel if administration was having challenges internally with the zero lot lines, we would have heard that by now. Administration would not be supporting a recommendation coming forward for rezoning, which they are doing. Administration's recommendation is to move this bylaw forward. The planning advisory committees, well, yes, it was split in the sense that it was a 3-1 vote. Their decision was to move this forward, who again, as we referenced earlier, would be a very engaged, knowledgeable body appointed by this council. So, simply put, Your Worship, I don't think we have enough determining factors that would justify moving third reading to a different date that I would vote in favor of that, barring anything other than what's already been said by council coming forward.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Laurie. Any other questions, comments, debate? Councillor Niebergall?
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you to whomever can answer this for me. Was a commitment made to our community that we would approve a portion, a piece of zero lot lines, and then we would return with some sense of report feedback before we moved further?
I think there was a commitment from council that we wanted to see how these zero lot lines picked up and how it affected our communities. And that is why every time that somebody wants to do a zero lot line, it has come back to council. So that is our oversight in terms of council's purview. So there was no pilot project per se, where we just held it, which is very similar to our community to the east, where they actually had a pilot project where they built an entire subdivision of zero lot lines. And then we learned from all those mistakes and issues that we had with other municipalities and approved this. So, go ahead.
So in a sense, then, the feedback loop is administration in terms of development and execution of that, and public hearing.
Correct.
Thank you.
Okay, Councilor Lawrence, go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. I appreciate Councilor Anderson bringing this forward. I also appreciate his perspective on deferring third reading. However, I sit here right now and I'm in agreement with Councilor Laurie. Every time a West Terra rezoning or change has come forward, our residents have been very vocal in sharing their feelings, and this is the first time I have seen empty chambers in regards to it. So yeah, I believe what Councilor Laurie is saying. For the first time ever, it's very interesting to see no commentary, whether it's support, against, general comment. So I don't see what deferring this would do. Yes, I understand a report is coming forward, but yeah, I don't see what the report would change in my feelings towards this current change. Your Worship, you talked about pilot project in my previous 4 years. We, as council, called it a pilot project, the houses we were doing, but it was an internal conversation of us calling it a pilot project. We had many conversations with the developer, with planning, as to bringing forward every time they wanted this. It actually came to a very interesting vote as to whether that should even be the process, if I recall correctly. So again, I appreciate the developer coming forward to say, following protocol in order to do this, but no, I don't see how deferring this to February 9th would change my vote.
Thank you. Thank you. Deputy Mayor, go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. So just the first question, and then maybe a couple comments. So just for clarity, nobody's actually seen this this report that we are, Planning Advisory Committee hasn't seen it, we haven't seen it. It's just, correct?
That is correct, unless the administration tells me differently. Has any public members have seen it, the report?
That is correct, Your Worship.
Okay.
Okay, so in that regard, you know, it does kind of fit into my slot of, yeah, I'd like to see this, maybe there is potentially some new information or a different perspective that hasn't been spoken to. So on that regard, I would just, because I heard it a couple times, we haven't seen any public input on this one. You know, I wouldn't attribute anybody's motivations for that because they haven't spoken. I mean, I could just as easily posit that, well, after us not listening to them on the other 2 or 3 occasions, they've just given up. So I would just say don't say that just because you didn't hear from them this evening that means we can draw conclusions from that. I do share my fellow councillors' concerns about pausing the process here. I do appreciate Councillor Anderson's comments. I believe that we would avoid the conflict and going out and speaking about it, but it does put the potential there, and it also puts the you know, perspective that it might possible. So so I share those concerns, and so I just those comments.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Moving over to Councilor Pletchko.
Thank you, Worship. Just a few comments. Well, I tend to agree with Councilor Laurie in what he's saying. There's a bit that kind of concerns me a little bit is we at this council table have asked for that report. And if that report is now able to be presented to us, regardless of whether one's opinion is that there should be nothing in it or one's opinion is there might be something in it. The true fact is today here, we should not be making any assumptions about what is or is not in a report. That report will speak for itself as it comes to light. I think one of the things we have to be cautious with, and I'll look for a little bit of maybe commentary from administration, is really, truly, we've sat at this table now for 9 years, some of us for 4 going on 5, and one of us brand new. The end result is we do our due diligence very well, but we do it without any conflict, and we do it without any perception that we've had somebody sway our brains at something. My concern tonight is similar to yours, Councillor Meyer, is if we do delay this, that the perception could be from the public that we're not truly doing our due diligence at this table. Even though we know a report, let's take that report out of this. We've been set here to do a job, and we were elected to do a job, and there is a process that we've had fairly firmly, in my belief, for 9 years that really truly has set us for back in this position to be able to make those decisions at council chambers. So my question for the administration is, by deferring that today, how bad is the risk of us being criticized for wanting a report before making the next step in the mark. And I'm not asking you just, I guess it's a broad speculation similar to the comment that there might not be nothing in that report, but there might be something in that report. So truly, at the end of the day, what risk do we take sitting at this table, deferring something, what we normally would not do in a very debatable situation, that we could really truly finish this debate tonight and either approve or disapprove this?
Go ahead, Administration.
Through your worship to Councillor Palechico, I'm not sure I can quantify the risk and answer your question fully, but what I will say in reference to the report that's been discussed tonight. So administration provides an annual development report to council. That report is typically provided in the first quarter. That has been a report that has come before you presented to council for a number of years now. That report was presented last year, I believe in Q1, and council will recall that the land use bylaw was debated and amended in April of 2025. So there is a cadence to administration reviewing and presenting and assessing the land use bylaw and bringing forward that opportunity for consideration for council. That's been my experience in the time that I've been here with regards to those reports and that information. And so administration has opportunities for us to speak to council on a regular basis about assessing the status and functionality of our land use bylaw and how that is looking currently. And so we have those dialogues with council and the community on an annual basis and can be then informed by these applications, the public hearings, as well as the input from the Planning Advisory Committee and other stakeholders in the community, certainly throughout that time. So I'm not sure I don't believe that fully answered Councillor Palechico's question, but I just wanted to offer a bit of context around the report and some of the cadence around how we monitor and report and take into consideration how that affects, the bylaws and regulatory environment for land use.
Okay, Councillor Palechico.
Thank you for that. I guess I'll just ask a very specific question then. Does this put us in any legal ramifications that could come back to council regarding either the developer and or, I'll just leave it there.
What I would offer initially in response to that, Councillor Palechico, is that part of the rationale for how we present the public hearing with second and third reading is for best practice around making a decision, being presented with the information that we can in its entirety, hearing from the public and all of those stakeholders, and providing council with the opportunity to efficiently make a decision with regards to what has been presented to them. Creating space between those decisions, a commentary has been already made from the mayor with regards to that. So I can't speak to the level of risk, but of course, providing that space creates that opportunity for that. How big that risk is, I can't speak to the details of that, but that's part of the reason why we present and cadence the public hearing and the decisions for second and third reading as we do. I'll just look to the manager of legislative services if she wanted to add any further comment regards to that. Okay.
Thank you.
No. Okay, we'll go to Councillor Laurie, Councillor Niebergall, and then Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. And as this is being battered around, actually, I would look to the manager of legislative services because this report would be considered new information. Would we not have to reopen the public hearing?
Administration.
Thank you. Through your worship, Councillor Laurie. I'd like to start out by saying that we've closed the public hearing, and so council cannot receive any new information from the public, written or verbal, in consideration of that matter. And And sorry, to your point about the public hearing, the Municipal Government Act was actually changed within the last year, where we are only allowed to have one public hearing on the matter. So there would not be opportunity for another public hearing.
Thank you. I appreciate that clarity. And so I think that then goes to affirm the point that, essentially, because we have had the public hearing, we are not subject to receiving new information from the public. Now, this information, this report may come from admin, but opening up a 2-week window, I think it's pretty hard to assure that there's no new information coming to any one of the 7 of us.
Okay, thank you. I'll go to Councilor Anderson. You had a follow-up? No? Okay. Then we'll go to Councilor Niebergall, please.
Thank you, Worship. Through you two to administration. I just have one question. If there was anything troublesome in regards to these zero lot lines that are potentially showing up in this report, would we have heard this previously, or would this be just kept until the report was presented?
Your Worship, through to Councillor Niebergall, the information would have been presented by administration if it was received by us. I will defer to the General Manager of Planning Infrastructure if he had other comments to add.
Thank you, General Manager. Through to Councillor Niebergall and all of Council. So I just wanted to speak on, we've talked about the development activities report, and that's an annual report that we do bring to Council. As was mentioned tonight, there's a cadence to that report. So we've been gradually improving and adding more information as we get more development activity in the town. There's more information there than just the zero lot lines. So it's not just a specific report on zero lot lines. It's an annual report that we bring to Council to update on all development activity. There is some updated zero lot line information globally on there that will be presented on the 2nd. So that's currently queued up. In respect to the question on if there's additional information that we should have presented tonight, the answer is no. We presented everything that we have in alignment with the public hearing to provide Council with the support of this that's been supported to Council tonight to make a decision. So there's additional context that administration is always here to support Council in its decision making. There is some questions that have been asked in the previous report that are being brought forward from last year to this year. But I don't want to necessarily have those two things connected. So there will be additional context on the progress of zero lot lines that maybe and then details that we didn't get into tonight. But ultimately, the information that we brought forward is for tonight is relevant and firm that we would that we stand by in that was presented in the lead sheet. So I want to just give Council those assurances as I see the debate go forward, and some additional context to the other General Manager's comments.
Okay, thank you. And I'll add that to that, Councilor Niebergall. So on a rare occasion, it does happen when applications come forward and administration has recommended not to support that recommendation. And as our staff has a whole bunch of processes to go through, we try to work with developers to get the best product for the town of Stony Plain. And sometimes a developer has every right to do what they please, and sometimes they will go ahead with an application that is not supported by our land use plans or the way that we're trying to develop our community. And there has been an opportunity where administration the recommendation is not to support the amendment changes. So the answer for you is yes. If it was an issue, it would be definitely on there saying no.
Thank you.
Deputy Mayor, go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. Just to help me on this particular decision, maybe somebody or yourself, the rationale. So I know the first reading gets us the public hearing, second reading, third reading, we're just making sure that we're really sure on the decision, or maybe the rationale for 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah, that actually just goes through the whole MGA is that we have to go through 3 readings of a bylaw. Okay. Yeah. So that
maybe if I could go to our legislative services person, maybe they might be able to add an additional commentary on that one. The reason for a third reading.
Thank you, through your worship, to Councillor Meyer. The mayor did speak correctly. The Municipal Government Act provides that a municipality must give 3 readings to a bylaw. I would say the act itself doesn't provide the rationale for that. Ultimately, it is an opportunity for council to make changes to a bylaw throughout the process should they have changes they require. But ultimately, I would say a best practice is that municipalities are doing second and third reading at the same time, especially as it pertains to matters that follow a public hearing.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions, comments, and debate on the motion? Okay. Seeing none, thank you for bringing it forward. I do understand the intent of it. However, I cannot support it based on some of the commentary that I've heard around here. And based on the best practices, we want to make sure that we have the most fair process for all individuals in our community that have land that can come forward with an application. We just did have a public hearing which allowed, it was advertised, it met all the advertising requirements, and everybody had the opportunity to talk about it. And the fact that the public hearing is now closed, in essence, the council is not supposed to have any more new information on that. So we have to make a decision on what we've heard and what was presented to us. In terms of risk, definitely that was one of the courses that we took as members of council, is that, yes, with every public hearing and bylaw change, there is risk. There is an ability for anybody that doesn't like what was done to actually go challenge us and take this to the municipal government board, etc. But however, if we don't stay true to our processes, there is that added layer, because now somebody can point that this wasn't a fair process. And I understand it's only a couple weeks from now, but there's no guarantee that some of us would not have heard something regarding zero lot lines or that development in West Terra. I can't guarantee that. I'm pretty sure, as mentioned by Councillor Anderson, that he holds high regards to each and one of us to not engage in that. But people do make comments here and there, and we are in a digital world where there's lots of comments made on social media, which all of us open your phone and something might pop up. So there, at that point, gives you additional information that the rest of council does not have at the time. So I would not support this, but I do appreciate where it's coming from. Councillor Anderson, to close.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you to my colleagues for the discourse. Certainly the intent is not to open any matters of questioning integrity or otherwise putting us in a position of risk and so on. But something that Deputy Mayor Meyer had said was something that has stood out for me throughout this particular debate this evening. And it's that idea that silence doesn't necessarily imply consent. And yeah, we have heard, this evening that we have had members of our community in the gallery to speak against zero lot lines in the past, and council has pushed it through anyway. More than once. And so, at some point there is an apathy that sets in that, my voice has been heard and offered, and a decision has been made. And so how many times do we go back to the well to be that resounding gong with the same message when the decision has already been made? And so I do think we owe it to the public to do our due diligence, this report being a part of that. And I do believe that as much as managing risk and so on is an important part of governance, so is being fair to members of the public. And we have as council, or members of council, I should say, not necessarily every member of council, but had that commitment to hearing from the public around the zero lot line product before we continue to approve. One of those things was a report from administration, which is not received, and here we are looking at zero lot lines again. And so, all things considered, I do appreciate the conversations around risk mitigation and so on, but do believe this is a part of our due diligence.
Thank you, Councillor Anderson. So I'll call the question. All those in favor of deferring third reading of bylaw 2731/LUO/25 to February 9th, 2026, regular council meeting. All those in favor? Opposed? Okay, that is defeated, so we'll move on to third reading. Councillor Meyer, we'll move on to third reading. Go ahead, Deputy.
Yes, thank you. That town council give third reading to bylaw 2731 LUO/25.
Okay. Thank you, Councilor Meyer. Members of council, we've had a couple presentations, we've had a public hearing, we've had presentations, we had a very good wholesome debate and conversation regarding that. Anything new to add to the debate and conversation? Okay. Seeing none, I'll comment. I will support the motion for third reading. Again, this provides a little bit of clarity to finish off West Terra Stage 20. This is the last stage of West Terra. As mentioned, it's taken 20 years to get here. Having that consistency of not having row housing does look good to me in my eyes of making sure that it looks consistent with the other members. And I just want to thank members of council for the robust conversation and commentary on that. I think I've said this many times, if we're all the same, we would not have a very vibrant or diverse community. But the fact that we had the ability to talk about it, to discuss it, share our opinions, what we heard from residents, and then also to vote on it. And then once we vote, we move forward on the matter, regardless of what happens. Last chance. Deputy Mayor for closing, please.
No, I'm good, thanks.
Okay, thank you. Call the question. All those in favor of third reading of bylaw 2731/LUO/25. All in favor? Opposed? Okay, thank you. And that is carried. Okay, for that, let's take a recess and we'll come back. Thank you. All right, welcome back to council chambers. Council has come back from recess. So continuing on with our agenda, we're looking at 8.2, which is our bylaws. We're looking at bylaw 2733/PS/26, and this is the community standards bylaw for second and third reading. And definitely, first reading was presented a little while ago by administration. There's quite a few comments and suggestions provided by council, and very happy to see a lot of those were incorporated and adjustments made that didn't change the intent or the overall, the bylaw itself, but addressed some of the concerns that council had. So administration, go ahead with the presentation.
Good evening, Your Worship, Council, Senior Administration. Nice to see you again. Thank you for welcoming me back to present the proposed Community Standards Bylaw for request of second and third reading. On January 12, 2026, Council gave first reading to the Community Standards Bylaw. During the presentation, Council provided administration feedback and asked questions for clarity. Administration reviewed the discussion from first reading and have provided additional information requested and is recommending amendments to the bylaw. Council requested administration provide further comment on legislation which imposes restriction on maximum fine amounts. Section 7 of the Municipal Government Act authorizes council to pass bylaws for municipal purposes and for each offense to impose a fine not exceeding $10,000. From first reading discussion, it was also requested administration provide information regarding serious offense sections of the bylaw which may be addressed in additional legislation. More serious offenses captured in the Community Standards Bylaw, such as assaulting an officer, are also contained in the Criminal Code of Canada. These offenses could potentially result in police laying criminal charges should the parameters of prosecution be met. This is similar for other offenses in the Community Standards Bylaw, such as vandalism or graffiti, which are also captured under mischief charges in the Criminal Code. Bylaw violations do not impact the criminal record of a person. Having the option of criminal code and bylaw violation allows law enforcement officers the ability to issue an enforcement action aligned with the severity of the violation. Administration review of the bylaw after first reading has resulted in the following recommended amendments. In section 3.1.4D, additional language has been included to capture exemptions regarding recreational vehicle parking allowed under the land use bylaw with the issuance of a development permit. The wording in section 3.7.2 was adjusted to improve the clarity of the intent of this section surrounding spitting in public. In section 3.7.14, removal of the word scavenge from this section when speaking of donation bins to accurately reflect the materials which may be contained in the bins. Section 4.1.3 has been added to the bylaw to highlight that any duplicate offenses within a 6-month period may result in increased fine increments being issued for the violation. This is now consistent with the language contained in the Responsible Pet Ownership Bylaw in relation to fee increases. Section 4.4.2 has been updated with language consistent with the authority granted to council for review of orders as outlined in the Municipal Government Act. This is to provide further clarity on the order review process. Schedule A was updated by removing the second and third columns for repeat offenses within a calendar year. The addition of section 4.1.3 now provides clear direction on increments of fines, making these former parts of the chart invalid. Section 4.1.4 outlines offenses which are continuing in nature. A contravention of the bylaw constitutes a separate offense with respect to each day or part of a day during which the contravention continues. Ultimately, every day which passes without remedying the contravention or continuing the violation of a bylaw, a CPO could issue fines with increasing increments quickly. For example, if a property owner is warned to clear snow from a sidewalk adjacent to their property and they fail to do so, a CPO could issue a violation for this first occurrence at a fine of $250 as listed in Schedule A. Now imagine 2 weeks later, Stony Plain receives another significant snowfall. The same property owner again fails to heed the bylaw and remove the snow from the sidewalk. A CPO could issue a fine for a second offense for a fine amount of $500. Now a month passes and another property owner still refuses to clean the sidewalk. Potentially, the CPO could issue a third offense violation for the Potentially, a CPO could issue a third offense violation for the amount of $750. Now, it is rare that enforcement services is placed in a position where we must explore the increased issuance of fine amounts. We do have other methods of achieving compliance and remedying contraventions, such as the issuance of an order and the ability to initiate cleanup measures if that is not complied with. Ultimately, the goal of enforcement services is voluntary compliance to resolve an issue. However, this provides CPOs a variety of enforcement options aligned with the frequency and severity of the contravention without restrictions resulting from the previous wording of calendar year. We are happy to now try to answer any questions you may have regarding the Community Standards Bylaw presented before you tonight. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you for the presentation, and definitely thank you for the suggested changes that have been put forward in terms of the kind of updating our Community Standards Bylaw. Members of Council, any questions for clarity and understanding? Okay. Councillor Loynes, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just want to comment that I was very happy to see the change at 4.1.3 in regards to how we qualify or understand the period of offenses. I feel that having it not be a yearly restart, and I use restart very loosely, that we will start to hold reoffenders more accountable, and the fact that our peace officers now have the ability to be more consistent in how we are dealing with those said reoffenders. So thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to Councillor Niebergall.
Thank you, Your Worship. I am just wondering, in speaking to the same point there, Councillor Loynes, could you please explain to me the criteria or decision-making matrix in how officers will now determine if that's going to be assessed a further fine?
Okay. Go ahead.
Thank you. Your Worship, through you to Councillor Niederball. CPOs address individual complaints and assessments based on a variety of factors. If we've interacted with the resident before, if there are other factors which could impact compliance, whereas we could potentially give them a longer time to achieve compliance, officers do have discretion when they're addressing these matters. If we see a just disregard for any compliance whatsoever to our bylaws on a repeat occurrence, that is when we would potentially explore the increment increasing.
Great. Thank you. Anything else?
If I have a comment, am I making that now? Yeah. I just wonder if, recognizing that it is now in alignment with the pet ownership bylaw, but maybe that's to say that needs to be reviewed as well. I find it a little bit troublesome, the may assess, because then that does kind of put the officer in a sense in a position to choose to make that decision, whether if it was laid out, and we're talking about these are repeat offenses within a 6 month period. So if it is, if they're reoffending within that 6 months period, do we just not hold them accountable to this?
Go ahead. I think some clarity on that, please.
Your Worship, through to Councillor Niederball. Certainly, officers have that discretion themselves, but typically speaking, if we're getting into a scenario like that, they will come and speak to myself or Tiffany related to and put all the facts on the table. And the three of us will come to some conclusion, or Tiffany and the officer will come to some conclusion related to the file. So they don't do this lightly. Typically speaking, it's not one and done, and we're going to continue to raise the offense. It's not something, we educate first, and we try to make sure that people have clear opportunity and equal opportunity to correct the activity. If not, then we may go to that exercise measure of more enforcement. But typically speaking, there's a conversation that's held between the officer and the supervisor, and sometimes myself. On some occasions, depending on the circumstances, we'll even escalate it to the CAO before we go to that level. So there are checks and balances. We don't have an officer that will just go out and escalate those very quickly for no reason at all, even though the letter of the law says that.
Okay. Thank you. Go ahead.
Thank you, Worship. Just in follow-up, just to be clear, I am in a sense saying that we should be holding people accountable. If we've set the expectation, we need to hold people to the expectations, and let the education piece come in that first round of opportunity to educate, but when we're repeat offending, I don't think it should be a may.
Okay, thank you for comments. Councillor Anderson?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you for being back with us and taking some of our feedback into consideration. It's great to see the revisions here. I'm going to speak to the same point, that 4.1.3 on page 61. I've gone through this a few times and I've tried to wordsmith it a little bit maybe, but the way that it reads for me, and this could just be the cadence that I read it at, but it's that idea that if you commit the same offense within 6 months, the subsequent offense shall require payment of double the sum outlined in Schedule A, which I read as the most that fine levied would ever be is doubled what we see in Schedule A, not that it compounds if there's a third or subsequent incident or fine levied. And so I've sort of played with it to take away, the sum outlined in Schedule A and just to say double the penalty leveled in the previous offense, perhaps. I don't have verbiage to offer here, but it does seem to limit the escalations because we are suggesting that it's just double the sum as Schedule A. Not sure if that resonates, but.
Yeah, administration? I think in the old bylaw, there was a penalty, then there was a second offense penalty within the same calendar year, and then the third. So just looking at verbiage, and if it does mean double the first penalty, then it'll be just double. We'll never get to the triple.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you to Councillor Anderson. I do see how that is being read, and I suspect I see what you mean about the wordsmithing part as well. The way it's worded right now, it could leave some gray area for interpretation.
Okay, so is it easily changed? I'm looking at administration.
And I appreciate that because I've tried and I haven't been able to find the words that I feel like capture the intent here.
Okay. Anything else?
I saw the manager lean into the mic with potentially some thoughts.
Okay, go ahead.
Your Worship, through to Councillor Anderson. Certainly when I did the review of this, I might have gone back to that a couple of times, but when I tried to apply it just on the surface level of how it's written, if you go to the section of which a fine might be levied, so we'll use the first one in Schedule A, which is $500. So your subsequent offenses would be 1,000 in that particular instance. I would suggest if I chose to pay a $500 fine and then chose not to do it and got a $1,000 fine, I might start educating myself with respect to my bank account. If I don't, within that 6-month period, if we keep, that doubling of the $500, so the third offense is $1,000. We just continue adding. So the compounding is going to be the doubling of that $500 multiple times. And we don't say, we'll only hit you 3 times. We could go up to $10,000 is what that is saying. So in essence, if someone's not complying, we do have the opportunity to go to a maximum of $10,000. It just means there's multiple fines being applied based on that original sum of $500.
Okay, if I may, Mr. Mayor. So we're going to suggest that we're going to double the fine levied in Schedule A, but there could be multiple fines for one offense that cannot exceed the $10,000. So for example, the sidewalk example, just say it's, $500, it's not remediated, there's another $500, it's not remediated, it's another, the second time it's 1,000 potentially, third time you follow it up, it's 1,000 again, fourth time's 1,000, until that total for that one incident, that one file, reaches a maximum of a $10,000 fine.
Your Worship.
Okay, I think.
Through to Councillor Anderson, that's correct. The other thing too is we have other avenues. We have orders. So given a sidewalk, we would probably go to order, we'd clean that up ourselves, it would go on their tax roll. So there's other mechanisms that we can use. This is specific to, some of these we can't write an order on, so we have to go directly to violation. There's also provincial legislation that perhaps the officers can use that as a stronger stick, so to speak, with respect to enforcement and the ability for us to get compliance.
Yeah, and I appreciate, I may not be clear for everyone, I saw some looks, but it is clearer for me. And so I do appreciate that. We're not increasing the fine amount to the $10,000. And I believe my lack of clarity came from our last dialogue during first reading, that potentially there were some repeat offenders that maybe we wanted to see those escalators increase, not necessarily in regards to that initial file, but if it's the same fee being levied for a subsequent offense, that would be that second fine on the second offense, not related to the first file, would have an escalator in it as a deterrent to repeat offenders. So it was sort of my understanding of the dialogue from last time and trying to apply it to the verbiage here, but I think I'm with you. Thank you.
You good? Thank you. Councilor Laurie on this side, go ahead.
Your Worship, I'll just add my comments in respect to thanking our administration for the changes that we've seen. My question was asked and answered. I think it's a little bit of a gray area, but I'm confident with the way that we've got it worded in here. One question that sort of spurred out of this because of the whole conversation between criminal versus bylaw, specific to graffiti. Over the last several years, we've experienced a incremental or larger change in the number of graffiti files we've seen, the instances of graffiti. I know we've had some, special kind of work done in identifying those responsible for it. When it comes to some of these, obviously, there's the criminal side, there's the bylaw side. With graffiti, do we tend to lean more to the bylaw side, or do we tend to lean more to the criminal side?
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship, through you to Councillor Laurie. It depends on the elements of the offense involved and that threshold. We do work closely with the RCMP on these types of matters. Our officers would be consulting with the RCMP to determine that best course of action, depending on occurrence, repetition, volume, all of those factors would come into play. But we do work closely with the RCMP to determine that best course of action.
Okay, excellent, thank you, and I'm really glad to hear that answer, because I think some of those keywords that you just hit on really focus. I mean, we see the same tag 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times throughout the community. I'd certainly like to hope that, we're going criminal on that, we're looking at that, versus, maybe a misguided youth who grabs a spray can from the garage the first time. I think absolutely. So appreciate that you work very closely with our partners in the RCMP on that. I appreciate the work that's been done on that file. I know it hasn't been an easy file over the last couple of years, but maybe now this with a little bit of extra bite in the offenses, and then that continued work with the RCMP, hopefully we'll get a good handle on that.
Okay, thank you. Any more comments, questions for clarity from staff? No, to our staff from our council. No. Okay, I do not have any either, so I thank you for addressing those concerns. I think what was recommended back to council for second and third reading definitely encompass what we were saying and questioning during first reading, so thank you. Okay, seeing that there is no more questions for clear and understanding, go to Councillor Niebergall for second reading, please.
Thank you, Worship. I move that Town Council give second reading to bylaw 2733/PS/26, a bylaw respecting community standards.
Okay, thank you. Members of council, we've had the opportunity to review them, see all the red line versions. Any questions, comments, debate on the motion? See none, I'll call the question. All in favor of second reading? That is carried. Okay, moving on to third reading. Councillor Anderson, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll move that Town Council give third reading to bylaw 2733/PS/26.
Yep. Members of council, last comments, questions, debate? See none, I'll call the question. All in favor of third reading? That is carried. Thank you. Moving on with our agenda to number 9, which is business items. And tonight, we have the strategic and corporate plan update for Q4. So it's a good little highlight to see what's happened over the last quarter and some of the questions that we always answered. How far along are we? So this is going to answer it. Go ahead, administration.
Good evening, Your Worship and Council. This evening for your consideration is the Q4 report with regards to progress on the strategic plan and corporate plan. This item is a culmination of various activities and actions that are supporting, addressing those items that have been outlined by council within the strategic plan and the progress being made on those. We do track a variety of activities and efforts that are placed both within council's purview as well as within administrations to support the actions that council has outlined for us within the strategic plan. So within the Q4, I will just highlight at this juncture, the end of the year brought with it some exciting change for the organization, for the community, for the members in this chamber with the election, the municipal election that was held, which is an important milestone in our democratic process here in local government, as well as the appointment of the committees and boards and representatives that support council in advice and engagement throughout various points of stakeholder activity. Shortly after that process was conducted, of course, council was engaged at the Alberta Municipalities Conference and had an opportunity to really flex our advocacy opportunities to prioritize and have dialogue with both our municipal colleagues across the province as well as provincial colleagues and the RCMP. So great opportunity to advance the dialogue and conversation about a number of topics that continue to be of importance to the community and council and address those at that stage and at that level within the Alberta context. Not too long after that, rapid fire, we bring forward the corporate plan for 2026 to 2028 for council to approve. So this is an important step in allocating resources and placing effort on the specific actions that council has identified and that we want to address in the year that we're about to embark upon and are already well underway in. Couple of community development milestones that occurred in Q4 that are important in terms of building and strengthening community connection and vibrancy. The unveiling of Hall Park and the naming, the placement of art, and the opportunity to enhance the green space in that area that brings more people and more attention to that very important area of our community was unveiled in Q4. The placement of Veterans Memorial painted crosswalks in our community to also highlight a very significant contribution to our community and to our country and provide an important visible reminder of that reflection. And then the final piece, of course, was the celebration of Winterfest, which is such an incredible gathering of our community at probably the coldest point in time, although this year it seemed like it was, Mother Nature was cooperating with us in some ways, and so we were able to have many citizens out in celebration of both the lighting of the Christmas tree, and a number of the activities that ensued around the holiday season, and then the fireworks and the celebratory festival at Heritage Park on New Year's Eve, which wrapped up our Q4 and brought us to a very exciting end to 2025. As council is well aware, we are fully into Q1 and starting the process of revisiting and reimagining our strategic plan and where we want to go and where we want to set our sights on for the next 4 years. And so I'll just reference that the strategic plan will be brought forward towards the end of Q1 for council to consider and share with the community in terms of the next steps and the next iteration of where we're going over the next 4 years. So with that, happy to answer any questions of council at this time.
Okay. Thank you for the presentation, and definitely thank you for the agenda package that has listed all the events, all the stuff that we have completed over the last year. Members of council, any questions for clear understanding on those? Okay, Councillor Meyer, go ahead.
That's Deputy
Yes.
Mayor Meyer.
Yes, I was gonna say that after.
That's okay. Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you, administration, for the report. I want to go to page, I believe it's 103, and hit on the Community Volunteer Leadership Development Program, having sat on the Mayor's Task Force and being on the ground floor of that coming. It's very exciting to see it continuing to crop up in our plans. I am curious, so maybe I'll just start with, what is our uptake? Have we filled all available seats there? And I know it says it's a 3-month course and it started in Q4 2025 and its completion in Q4 2026, so that's actually 12 months, but it only runs for 3. So I'm just maybe curious when it actually starts and when we see our first contingent.
Of community volunteers.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, go ahead, administration. Good question.
Thank you, Your Worship, through you to the Deputy Mayor. So the Inspire to Lead was launched in terms of accepting applications in Q4 of 2025. The application process will wrap up mid-February and the first cohort will begin. The cohort is expected to attend about 12 weeks worth of programming and learning and working together as a team. And then following that time together, each participant will develop a community project that they will take the leadership of. It could be something that they're passionate about. It could be something that they're already working as part of some of their volunteer areas or interests that they have in the community. And so the full culmination of their time in the Inspire to Lead program is expected to take about a year altogether. We've also are intending to host a second cohort of participants in late fall of 2026. And so you'll see that intake process happening. We'll give the first cohort time to go through their 12 weeks of training and then do some review and assessment of the program to see really feedback from the participants as to what worked for them, what didn't work, and what we could make better for future iterations.
Sorry, I'm going to take the fact that there's a second cohort, that obviously then the first cohort got filled and that there's enough interest for a second cohort as well then.
Your Worship, through you to Deputy Mayor. The cohort is not filled yet. The applications are still open until the middle of February for the first cohort. And so we do anticipate to be able to fill that cohort and then be able to move ahead with the second one.
Right. Maybe then I will just, because I did get contacted by a resident who was actually looking for just the information to have a neighborhood like block party, and I understand that we help facilitate those. And I think they wound up getting sort of slid into a vein towards these cohorts, and they were left with the impression that they had to go through this process before they could host a neighborhood block party. And so I don't believe that that's our intent, but I would just pass it along and maybe some caution there that we don't, we're just careful there.
Your Worship, if I may. Deputy Mayor, if you have the resident's name, if you could provide it to us, we'll just do that follow-up with them directly. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Laurie, go ahead. Thank you, Deputy Mayor, for your question.
Thank you, Your Worship. Actually, just with following in that vein, because I didn't hear the answer. The applications are open. Do we have a number of applications that we've received so far? Like, do we have a gauge of community interest in it?
Your Worship, through you to Councillor Laurie. My understanding is that there's been a number of people making inquiries. There is an application process where they explain the type of project that they're interested in doing, and so I don't have the latest information about how many applications we've received, nor who will be into the program, and that won't happen until mid-February.
Excellent, thank you. And do we have a maximum size for the cohort?
I believe the maximum size is 15, but I would want to double check that for you.
Perfect, thank you. And then just further on, actually not necessarily a question, I'm just wondering through you, your worship, we see this same report quarterly, and when I compare it back, there are some items that have been on there for a little while, there are some items that are new in the chart. So we've got the update side of the chart. Would it be possible just to get the new additions or changes either highlighted or put in a different color text or something so we can see the progress from quarter to quarter? So it's highlighting what's actually changed within that last quarter?
Administration?
Your worship, through to Councillor Laurie, thank you for the comment and suggestion. We can take that away and look at that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Any more questions? No, going to Councillor Anderson, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just on page 97 of our agenda package, two things I always look for in this particular report that always hit close to home. The first being youth. It's great to see the work that's gone on that portfolio. I know there's still work to come, and so very grateful for the work that's being done through community and social development there. The other one, just backing up, same page, but to the Together We Shine initiative. Going into, I believe it was September, we had an inclusion strategy on a future council meeting agenda page that was presented to us. But then when we came back after the election, it seems to have gone missing. My understanding is there was some work being done with the Rick Hansen Foundation, some audit of municipal facilities around accessibility and so on. Just looking for an update through you, Mr. Mayor, from administration on if it's just missing or if something's happened there, been delayed or otherwise.
Okay, administration.
Your worship, through you to Councillor Anderson. So the Rick Hansen Foundation did complete an accessibility audit for us in 2025 where they reviewed a number of municipal facilities. Administration has received the report of the recommended options that the Rick Hansen Foundation has provided to us. And administration is currently reviewing those recommendations to look at sort of what could be priorities, what could be quick fixes, what could be longer term fixes. And so between community and social development and public works and community and protective services, the departments that are mostly impacted by those and the timing and sequencing of what some of those activities could take place. That review is underway, and the intent is that in spring, a report would be shared with council about some of the priorities and the recommended actions that administration would propose. And then those would then feed into the corporate planning process depending on their dollar value or the complexity of them. So it was removed from the council agenda package presentation, but only so that we could present you with clear recommendations and timelines and things like that.
Thank you. Anything else?
No, so just making a note here, so spring, so Q2 at some point, we look forward to seeing that. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Members of council, any more questions for clear and understanding? No. Okay, I do have a question in terms of the cemetery. I think it looks like based on the update that we're looking into Q1 of opening up for business, as I like to say. Can you provide an update on that?
Through your worship to all council, there's an update to council that will have some more details on that coming very shortly, likely this month. So we'll have some more information on potential opening strategies and dates to go along with that.
So within a month or so?
There will be an update to council on this within a month. That is currently planned.
Thank you. And can administration provide kind of some highlights about the enterprise software changes that we've done over the last couple of years? How's that gone? Because I think that was a process that's been kind of layered over the next couple of years. And then there's also capabilities of being more interactive with the residents so that they don't actually have to come in. There's, avenues to log in through the web to do our stuff, so without having to actually coming in and spending that time. So just an update on that, please.
Your worship, through to all of council, thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk about ERP. So yes, we did complete our first phase, which was more internally facing, so our more fundamental elements around HR, finance, payroll, those types of things. Your worship, what you're referring to with respect to residents is the second phase of our ARP, which is related to our taxes, utilities, our accounts receivable. And we are very close to the launching of that. That will be towards the end of Q1, beginning of Q2. So we will be putting together some communication for our residents on what they can expect for changes, what's going to stay the same, what enhancements they're going to be able to see, as well as just generally speaking, the better detail that will come with an updated system. Second to that, there's also the e-permitting component of that, which is coming later in the summer. And so that's another online interface for residents that is going to reduce the time and effort they'll need to do from paper and coming into town hall. Not that we don't want to see our residents in town hall, but it gives them another option on how to conduct business with us.
Okay, thank you for the update. And that was my questions. Any other questions for clear understanding? Just comments? Okay, seeing none, moving over to Deputy Dog. You get to make the motion.
Yes, thank you. The town council accept the strategic and corporate plan for Q4 2025 report for information.
Okay, thank you. Any questions, comments, and debate on the motion to accept for information? Seeing none, call question, all in favor? Okay, and that's carried. Okay, moving on with the agenda is number 10, which is council discussion. So this is the time that council members can update the rest of the council on anything that's happening on their committees or boards or anything that they've heard from residents to bring forward to our administrative staff so that they can address some of those. We're starting with Councillor Anderson today.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Not much for me this evening. Just want to extend some appreciation and gratitude to our senior leadership team with our municipality, who did a great job leading us through our strategic planning every year. And again, this year, here just a couple of weeks ago, certainly not an easy endeavor with a group of very opinionated people sitting at the table, but we certainly appreciate all the work that goes into it and the guidance that's provided. And it's always exciting to see how the feedback and the perspective that's provided comes back into chambers over the next year. And so appreciation to SLT for all the work that goes into that and the work that we know is to come.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. I would just like to... I have a question here. Yeah. So now that we've got the roads cleared, through you to administration, and now that we've got the roads cleared and we've given, I do appreciate that we would be fairly lenient since it took us so long to clear the roads, and that's not a criticism of it, just big job. There are a number of sidewalks that are now obviously not getting cleared. And so I think you could say residents were waiting for us to clear our portion of the snow, and then they felt that they would then proceed to clear theirs. And you do see that throughout the community, people chipping away at the ice and whatnot. What my question is in regards to the residents that have made no effort in terms of clearing their sidewalks. Do we have any numbers in terms of enforcement? Have we ticketed these people? Do we plan on ticketing? I mean, I do appreciate, like I say, that we maybe give some leeway there. And I'm just looking for some feedback on that one.
Yep, thank you. Administration, any numbers?
Your Worship, through to the Deputy Mayor. So I can't give you numbers off the top of my head today, but I certainly do know from discussions with the supervisor that we have a number of files related to snow and ice and sidewalks. You're correct. Some subdivisions took a little bit longer, and it was impossible for people to remove that snow and ice just because of that melt. It was basically a trough. We're now at that point where that leniency is a little bit less, so we're certainly treating our enforcement levels a little bit different. We're still giving people adequate time to get the snow and ice off of their sidewalks based on the fact that we've done all of our residential cleanup at this point. And there's an expectation with the colder weather that they should be able to remove that ice. So we're getting some good compliance for sure. There's definitely some people that are not complying. And we have mechanisms and cleanups and orders that we can put in place with respect to having a contractor go in and clean that if it continues for a length of time.
Okay, and just a follow-up to that one, maybe just to remind me, in our quarterly update, would that be information that might be included in that?
Go ahead.
Your worship, through to Deputy Mayor, certainly in our Q1, 2, 3, 4, we do have community standards, which is where this section would fly. I think if I remember correctly, you'll get it next week, but if I remember correctly, I think the numbers are slightly down because we didn't have ice and snow on the front end as much as we did last year with respect to community standards. So you might see a bit of a drop with the community standards related to the fourth quarter, but our snow came very late in the quarter. So we definitely, you would see it under the community standards bylaw with respect to the quarterly reports.
Okay, thank you. I'll look forward to reading that.
Thank you. Councillor Niebergall.
Thank you, Worship. I too want to echo a big thank you to senior leadership team for hosting my first strategic planning. So lots of learning there. Excited to see what comes out of it. So thank you for having us for the weekend. And a big thank you to my colleagues around the table here. You know, weekend away from your families, that, you know, overnight does take you away from your responsibilities and stuff, but I appreciate the commitment to us as a team and us as a community and the work that went into that. I don't know about the strong opinionated ones, but I would just like a little update. I only briefly got to initially meet my Pioneer Museum board members as it fell on a Christmas concert night for myself. So I got to fulfill my first meeting. Great little group there, and they are currently exploring, which was really interesting for me to be a part of. They had some financial advisors around the table looking to give some direction in terms of setting up an endowment fund so they can look to use the growth of what is put in to offset the operating costs. So just a little update from them. And, you know, the regular feedback in terms of snow clearing, et cetera. And I think that's about it. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Niebergall. Councillor Laurie.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a couple things. Again, want to echo the appreciation to our senior leadership team and our consultant for the strat plan last week in Sylvan Lake. Sylvan Lake. I kept saying it wrong, and then I said it right the first time there. Obviously, like I said, every year we've gone through that. It's been a little bit different, but I think in the end, we always end up with a fantastic product. So looking forward to the continued process from here to about the end of March for us to get that strategic plan all finalized, finished up, and put out to the public to give them a good understanding as to everything we've heard from them and the direction that we intend to continue going. Also want to reiterate and echo a huge thank you to all of our teams, Frontline Public Works, as well as our contract team as well for all of the work done in snow removal. I think we see the results throughout the community. The fact that I saw them out working today on alleys, and if we're getting back alleys done, I know other communities resorted to abandoning their clearing to go scrape, and now they're going back to clearing, and they're scheduled till the end of February. And so, you know, kudos to our teams. I think we've done a really, really good job. The fact that we were able to get in, get it cleared. Again, we know seasonally things continue to change, which is really hard on equipment and really hard on crews, dealing with the freeze thaw. Who'd have thought we'd have so much rain in December? That was a bit of a crazy time, but it's happening more and more, so you never know. I I did just want to recognize the letter we received this afternoon. Thank you, Mayor Choi, for distributing that to council from the City of Spruce Grove. As you'll remember, back in our corporate plan, we had requested discussions with the City of Spruce Grove around our regional transit and the commuter line and the potential of an expansion of that commuter line into Stony Plain. I'm very disappointed to read that the City of Spruce Grove does not even feel like it's worth entertaining a discussion. That was very disappointing. You know, a discussion does not necessarily mean a change. It just means opening up those lines of communication to understand where perspectives are coming from, understand what options are possible, understand what that may or may not take or entail. So, you know, kudos to our administration. I understand Spruce Grove didn't even reach out to our administration. It was essentially the motion was passed in corporate plan. Spruce Grove decided a response and moved forward with that. So, again, sad to see that. I was a little concerned with some of the comments that I heard in the discussion. I managed to listen to the entire council meeting, and you know, we've basically been told that the commuter line won't be extended out to Stony Plain without the addition of costs solely borne by the town of Stony Plain, yet we continue to pay 14% of a commuter line loop through the City of Spruce Grove that doesn't provide direct benefit to our residents. But apparently that must have been evident in part of the council's comments implying to us that it's not Christmas anymore. So, not exactly sure what was meant by that, but maybe we'll get a card that'll explain it to us. So, appreciate it. Thank you very much, Your Worship. That's all for me this evening.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Laurie. On to Councillor Loynes.
Thank you, Your Worship. I wanted to bring recognition to a proclamation that you had made today in regards to a thing called Kawasaki disease. You declared that today is Kawasaki Disease Awareness Day. This is something that not a lot of people have ever heard of. It is actually a very rare disease that affects children under the age of 5 typically, but it affects their heart and the blood vessels that go to their ventricles that actually cause their heart to pump properly. I unfortunately get to say that I am a mom of a child who has suffered with this disease that was led on by a very interesting infection that came upon him. And it is great to see that, although it is very rare, that our mayor has taken the opportunity to recognize something as serious as this. So I appreciate that, Mr. Mayor. And that is all.
Thank you, Councillor. Moving on to Councillor Pletchko.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm going to start off by saying SLT, very disappointed in strategic planning. When I arrived in Sylvan Lake, I thought for sure we were going on a fishing trip. Soon to realize that that fishing trip really was something totally different than what I'm used to. The fishing trip was planned around where we as council seen the future of Stony Plain, which I think was much more exciting than getting out on the ice. However, still disappointed. Maybe next time we can go for a day, do a little jigging, do a little talking in one of those little shacks that they have out there. Might have been a really good strategic plan. However, saying that, phenomenal job with what you guys did. Thank you very, very much. Also today, we had an opportunity with YRL to come together with some of our regional partners out there for a day of orientation. It also had the alternates there, and they also got to see what YRL is all about, so some great education there. And then just a quick note to planning, General Manager, how can we get the sidewalks that are our responsibility sanded so that our residents no longer have to walk on the roads? I've had several calls this week about the roads. In fact, I had one lady offer to tell me that she maybe has shed a tear with her dogs pulling her down the road and almost got run over. So I'm just wondering if there's an opportunity that we can get out with the sanding on the sidewalks.
Go ahead.
Through your worship, the Councillor Pletchko, thank you for the comment. So I did actually have a talk with our trails, our roads, the crew that looks after the sidewalks and trails today. They are sadly down a sander. The machine that runs it is currently in the shop. It had some issues this weekend. They were trying to repurpose the sanding device onto another sander to do exactly what you're saying, to try and catch up on some other needed areas. I'll add to council that I did receive either through observations from council or for some through our CEO some locations which I did talk with the supervisor directly about trying to prioritize. Today I know that they were out in fairways trying to do their best with what they had today. The supervisor is aware that there's some areas that they need to get to, and they are pushing forward. They're hoping to get both standards back engaged so they can get caught up on that.
Thank you, greatly appreciate that. I know our residents like to walk on the sidewalks, not be directed by the traffic that's going there, so they all appreciate that. Thank you very much. That's it for me tonight.
Okay. Thank you, Councilor Pletchko. Okay. And just for me, just wanted to, again, echo some of the comments to thank our senior leadership team and members of council, and definitely our facilitator to have those open conversations over our strategic plan. I think one of the biggest things that I've seen in our community is that our community has benefited from the deliberate time away from our community to envision what we want to see happen in our community, how it's going to grow, what's going to happen in terms of development, commercial, industrial. And we see a lot of things on the horizon right now. And it's a good feeling knowing that there's a lot of wind behind our sails that will continue to push the momentum, the development, and the growth of our community. I just look forward to, as many said, to see what comes out, especially for this term, as we put our stamp on our community for the 2025-2029 council term. And I knowing by our first strategic plan, the conversation, how did you classify it? The strong, opinionated people? Yes, that's what drives our community. As we've seen here today through our agenda, we definitely have that diversity, that strong opinion, that conversation piece, but there's also a lot of civility and respect for one another. And I think that's what drives our community forward, and we show that to our residents, that it's okay to not agree, it's okay to have your opinions, opposite to the guy beside, to your left or to your right, and that's all okay. But we respect those opinions, and we'll continue to move forward together because that's how we build the community. To follow on part of that, on the 29th, there is a Nourishing Connections event that's happening in our community. Again, talk about connections. Right? That's how our community gets to understand who we are, where we're going, and how we're driving this our kind of cohesive community going forward. And if you look at the kind of the agenda, it's like sometimes the simplest connection goes a long way. Right? When you just walk on the street and you say hi to all the strangers that are coming in, looking at our murals, or the tours that come through, or even our residents, that little bit of connection can go a long way. So in terms of how we do things at Stony Plain, stay connected and always choose to be kind. Okay. So with that, that ends our council discussion. Moving on to closed meeting, we have nothing scheduled tonight. So going on to adjournment, which means we are complete for the evening. So thank you, administration, for bringing the bylaws forward. Thank you for council for putting your thinking caps on. And definitely that was a very good conversation. We look forward to the next couple ones that we see come forward. With that, we're adjourned.